Yeah, so basically this is our first live stream. Let me mute this. This is our first live stream on Overvolted. We have done a live stream before, but that was on the website channel, I believe. But yeah, we wanted to introduce Noamon, our newest writer here.
Hello.
And
Yep, he's
we
been doing a
also have
great job on the website. He's been writing a lot of our articles of late while Alex and I have been kind of dealing with reviews. I think you guys can hear me now. Go ahead and type in chat if you can.
everybody saying yes. We're seeing a lot of yeses. We have about a 10-second delay. We heard everyone but
Yep.
Kirk.
Yep.
Jim is not going to be doing tech videos for a while, Shedrick. So,
But maybe we can pull him into one of these in the future. As a
maybe
guest
we can.
appearance.
Maybe we can.
Yep. All right. I think we got all the audio issues taken care of. I feel left out. Maybe I should have put on my headset. Here. There we go.
Yeah.
Haha. Now I match everyone.
Welcome to the team.
No, I don't need to.
All right, so let's get started with the topics.
I guess we can just do a little bit with Jim here. He has a new YouTube channel called Freethinker. We have a link to it in, I think, the description for this channel as a reference. Yep, Jim has got a new channel. All right. So let's go ahead and, like you said, move to our first topic, the patent for chiplets for video.
Yep. So, yeah, I covered that. AMD patents chiplet design to push more rasterization to the next level. So we know that rasterization has its limits, especially what we saw with the 20 series, where NVIDIA introduced ray tracing to kind of try new technologies to kind of make up for rasterization performance. And, you know, we haven't seen a lot of improvements over the years in terms of rasterization. For the longest bit, it was 20-30% improvement. And then it was a huge jump between the 9 series and 900 series and the 1000 series.
Yes, there was.
And then it kind of dropped off during the 20 series, and and NVIDIA and these companies have already seen these trends come, so they're preparing for it by introducing new technologies like ray tracing. In AMD's case, it's introducing a chiplet-based design. And what's really interesting about the entire chiplet-based design is that it's a lot more difficult to do on the GPU space than it is in the CPU space, because in the CPU space you have a lot less data that you're working with, but in the GPU space that goes up by multiple factors. So they've outlined this really cool pattern where they show that can be done using a high-speed interconnect called what was it called?
HBX?
It's called HBX. So it kind of works like Infinity Fabric in many ways, but it connects 2 chiplets at a time. By the way the pattern looks, and then the way programs are intended to see this is that, okay, it's one big GPU versus 10 smaller ones, and that's where really all the magic is happening. On a very low level, it's a really small electrical path that connects the interposers between the chiplets, and that's the magic sauce that AMD is using to catch up to rasterization. So what are your thoughts, guys?
Well, I think first and foremost, we've had some technology to chain GPUs together in the past. We had Crossfire, SLI. It had been around for ages, 10, 20 years kind of ages. And it just never really caught on with any of the gaming environment people.
I mean, Crossfire and SLI had a very hardcore, I would say, a little period where it was used. It's just the development work on it was, the work from the devs was so time consuming that they just ended up stopping supporting it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm meaning when I say game people.
But
I'm not talking
here,
about the end users.
Okay.
A lot of end users would do it because it would be a great inexpensive way to get more performance without having to pay top tier GPU prices. Because to get a little extra 10-20%, it was almost double the price.
I know a lot of people who bought a second 6770 and ran them in Crossfire because it was, comparable to, it wasn't as good as a 6950, but it would sometimes be close enough that for another $100, it looked great.
Yeah, and a lot of the technology back then was just frame interleaving, where one GPU would work on one frame and the next one would work on that second frame, and you essentially had a dual frame buffer. And now we got games that do triple buffering and things like that, depending on the input latency you want to deal with. But it's pretty much moved to a model of just a single GPU. Because even though we just came out with the DirectX 11 or 12 that supported hardware virtualization almost, where they could just have GPUs all work in consort to render different parts of the screen, even as opposed to the whole screen. And we saw that in Ashes. They kind of showcased that technology with AMD pushing it with their Mantle initiative and things like that. But it still never took off with developers. They just never supported it in any good, fashionable way, and it just kind of died off. They even got rid of the interconnects now on some of the newer GPUs where they don't have those SLI links.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I actually spoke to a developer. There's this really old game called Supreme Commander. It's from like 2008.
Yep.
Not sure if you guys are familiar with it, but I spoke to the developer on a lot of things, and they were like, yeah, when SLI was around, it was a transition phase. So they were moving from 32-bit to 64-bit and multiple cores. So it was like they didn't have the time for it. And from that point on, they really didn't invest a lot of time into that because most of their resources were tied up in shipping one title, So these kind of technologies didn't make sense. And if you look at what NVIDIA is doing today, is that they actually offer developers support to integrate RTX. So there was definitely a push from the GPU vendor, the GPU manufacturers, to get RTX out, but I guess it really wasn't there. The market forces just weren't there for multiple GPUs.
Well, the thing is, we've been kind of hearing about this, even from AMD themselves, for a little while now, because it's been a thing since the Ryzen CPUs came out and they did chiplets with those. They're like, hey, why don't you do this with your GPUs? And the line that they've always toted was, this is hard, guys. This is really hard. We might not even be able to do it, kind of thing. And, that was probably a tongue-in-cheek thing. They had probably started looking at this chiplet idea with both their CPU and their GPU. It just made it was a lot easier to do with the CPU first. But obviously they got something worked out here. They put the patents in for it. It's going to be interesting to see how NVIDIA comes back, whether they'll license this technology or find some way to work around it and come up with their own patent. But with chiplets, it's going to be the way we go, because the more we shrink the die sizes, the more artifacts, more flaws that they're going to run into, because the tolerances are getting so small.
Plus, with the supply chain issues we have right now, we just can't afford to do monolithic GPUs. It just doesn't make sense. two major fabs out there that are working on mainstream consumer GPUs. We have TSMC and AMD, and then you have NVIDIA and Samsung, and they are well above capacity right now. So there really needs to be a lot of technology in the field of material sciences and these kind of tricks, as we like to call them in the GPU, in the gaming space, where you're faking these things to get the best performance out. You kind of need more of these technologies to come out to kind of make up for the limitations we have in the physical space.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we need to give a shout out to Ryan. He donated £5. Thank you, Ryan. Oh no, those are euros.
Yep.
This screen's like this far away from me, so
we're Americans. We don't know.
It's a squiggly line.
Yeah, there's also a very interesting comment by Mike Bruzone. There will be FPGAs married to DGPUs. Yeah, so we're already seeing that with ray tracing. Ray tracing is basically done on what is FPGA in its simplest form on a hardware level.
Yeah, and video cards have actually had not quite FPGA level, but they have had programmable bits to them. Yeah, that's been one of the big things with CUDA and whatnot, is they've been able to do a little bit of that programmable stuff on the GPU as well. It might not have been full FPGA stuff, but now that AMD has made their acquisition, we might actually get to see that a little bit more.
Yeah, plus we're going to see a lot more accelerators coming to GPUs along with AI tech. I think Cortex had a very interesting video on this where they basically outlined that, hey, we've reached the limits of rasterization. We have to use AI and these other tricks to get to the performance levels that we need to get for generation improvements,
You want to know the fun thing? With that whole graphics coprocessor, with this chiplet idea, they're going to essentially have that. They're going to have a coprocessor that deals with all of the I/O handling, as well as probably any miscellaneous one-off feature that they're going to have to put in there. And then they'll have this back-end GPU chiplet array that will do all of the actual core processing. So there you go, Cortex. Your little graphics coprocessor thing, in a way, is probably going to come true.
Yep. Also, what was outlined in the patent was that, how we see the memory modules aligned at different angles on the PCB itself. We could see something like that on the chip level, where you see them in an array in like a pentagonal shape and all that. So it's very scalable in that sense. It could be done in a 5 configuration or 2 configuration. So it's basically going to be one chiplet from the lowest end SKUs to the highest end, and that kind of makes AMD in a unique position if this comes ahead. If this comes to fruition, is that AMD is the only one that's doing this right now. We don't know what's happening in NVIDIA's labs.
We do have Intel that has already shown that they're going to be doing the Fervoros stuff with their Xe GPUs. And so we do know, we've seen pictures of it that show 4, I think, dies for their GPUs. So they'll be doing chiplets as well.
Yep. Plus, I think Intel put it the best way. When Ryzen launched, it's just a bunch of CPUs glued together. It's not done properly. They made this very interesting remark when Ryzen launched. And
isn't glue a technical term though? When they said they're glued together, we think Elmer's glue, but there's a lot of people that are like, glue is a technical term. It's talking about attaching dies.
Blue team, what are you gonna do?
Oh, you guys are seeing my my chair in the back. Oh no.
Yep.
Product placement.
My
But
chair
how?
isn't a gaming chair, so you don't get to see something like what Noman has behind
Yep.
him. See, my chair, you can't even see it. I have to kind of glitch it in here because of the fake green screen that we're doing.
Yep,
Because
Yeah.
me too.
I am too poor to get a real green screen, and I really doubt you guys want to see my office that has everything from a weight bench to a closet full of computer hardware. I even have a
You
box.
I
guys don't
wouldn't.
want to see the
I
rest of
wouldn't
it.
mind one of those.
I even have a
To be
box in
honest.
my office that has the words P4 compatible, meaning Pentium 4 compatible CPU case, or it's an
Yeah.
NGC if anyone cares what brand.
Yeah, so Hardline DK asks in the chat, sorry if you've already touched on this, but how will GPUs deal with die-to-die latency compared to CPUs? Is it a complete non-issue or well,
Really,
in,
that's a really
yeah.
good question because when we're talking about gaming, it's an entirely latency-based thing.
Yeah, and if we
Yeah.
look at it, we see frames that are rendered in 30 milliseconds or less, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we look at the inter-die communication for chiplets. What's the millisecond latency between dies, cores on different dies? Do we have a spec for that? Wasn't it like 80 nanosecond?
Yeah, which is very low. And
So as
let's have
long
a
as
look.
they can overcome the uh, the grunt by just adding more cores, essentially, right? More chiplets, that 80 nanosecond that they get with their current Ryzen inter-core communication across the fabric, I think
Mhm.
they can easily pull off a GPU that can stay under that 30 millisecond per frame.
All right, so I have some numbers here. Depending on how many cores you're using, the core-to-core latency can be anywhere from 6.6 nanoseconds up to 82.3 nanoseconds. I mean, for context, we can't tell the difference between 10 seconds and a minute sometimes, you know? That's how fast things go. So I don't think people are going to be able to tell the difference in GPUs, especially considering that the pattern outlines that they're cross-link. It's going to be like an electrical path. So there's going to be a lot of bandwidth there to make sure that there's no latency, or there's as less latency as possible. Because it's
Well,
basically taking, yeah,
I
go
was
ahead.
just going to interject and say, with CPUs, you're doing tasks in one core in some relatively single threaded process. And if you try to bring in another core to multi thread that, a lot of times there's interdependencies there. And so you have that inter core communication. They talk about NUMA modes and things like that because they just kind of have to work with each other. But
Mm-hmm.
with GPUs, everything is just rasterizing or pushing pixels through all of these
Yep.
cores from a central location, that controller IO, right? That controller die.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of those chiplets are just going to be doing set tasks that are outlined by that control die.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a whole lot of inter-core communication going on. One core doesn't need to know what the other core is doing because they all run massively parallel. It is designed to do this. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's basically more like a supercomputer, or maybe even more like Bionic, where they're just sending out packets of data to process, and then they get the feedback, and then they decide what to do with it. And so I don't really
Yep.
see the latency being a big deal to end up with a good real-time result.
Yeah, and Cat75 Row points out GPUs are mostly unidirectional processors. They don't need to communicate
No,
between
that's a fair
cores.
point. That's a fair point.
Yeah, it is.
You need a big solid central cache. I mean, that's honestly a good point. I always think of things from the way that CPUs are designed and CPU
Mm-hmm.
tasks. This is why I like having Donnie around, because he's the GPU guy and I can
Mm-hmm.
just sort of let him do this stuff.
Yeah,
Fortunately,
but
couldn't make it this week, but hopefully next week.
Yeah, but again, we have this new crosslink. We don't know what the limitations are on that as of yet, so we kind of have to go with what we have, and we have to assume that they've figured this out, or they're in the process of figuring this out. Because keep in mind, this is going to be Gen 1 technology, and we all know that Ryzen first gen was really good, but it wasn't amazing. It was second gen that was selling like hotcakes.
And
So
third gen, that was a massive improvement.
Exactly. So it's going to be the same process. I mean, keep in mind that AMD hasn't had these kind of resources in a while. They just went debt-free a couple of years back. So
That's true.
I think Lisa Su put it the best. They've just started winning, and they're going to make small improvements up until the fact that these 10, 20 small improvements are one big leap,
Right.
And by the looks of things, AMD is going to be competitive. They're competitive now, can't even get the GPUs, and that's very obvious.
Well, on that note, you want to jump over to our supply talk?
Yeah, so let's address the elephant in the room, which is none of us can get a GPU anymore.
I mean, I've been trying. I was there on launch day. You guys probably saw the article I wrote. I was there on launch day for both RDNA 2 and the 3000 series NVIDIA stuff. And I would have bought one on day one if they were available, just so that we could have some in our testing facility. That's all there is to it. And I wasn't even that hyped about it. Like, I knew RDNA 2 was going to be very competitive, on par with NVIDIA's offerings, and I would have been fine with either one of them, even though I don't personally need the upgrade. But I tried to get one, and I couldn't. Just could not do it. They just weren't even available day one.
Yep. I have a very interesting story to tell here. So we're talking about like 3 to 4 months back, before NVIDIA made their announcement for the 3000 series. My plan was to open up something in the e-commerce space and, start something in the computer space. Now, admittedly, it would have been a huge risk, but I was kind of saved by the bell, you could say. So I have an inside source in the GPU industry who told me that, listen, so this was early on. He was like, listen, I'd advise you against this. And I was like, okay, cool. Let's see what happens. Let's see after launch what happens. 2 days after launch, I had a conversation with this person again. And I was like, hey, how many GPUs are you expecting? Just casually. And he told me, look, it's single digits. And I was just shocked. And at that point, when he told me that, a couple of weeks before the shortage became mainstream, I had to put all my plans on hold. I had a website ready to go. I was looking at warehouses. It kind of saved me in that regard. But the point is that, these guys knew it was happening because of the allocations that happened initially. So there was time they could have tried mitigating that pretty early on. And, I think NVIDIA could have responded to these things better in a lot of ways. For example, we know that GPU production for the 20 series stopped a couple of months before the 30 series came out. And they were just liquidating stock by the time 30 series launched. And, based on how many orders that they made initially with Samsung, they would have had an idea of how many they're going to sell. But I think NVIDIA messed up in the sense that they were the victim of their own success. And going from 10 series to 20 series was literally just RTX. That was the main performance metric that they advertised. I think it was like 50 something times that they mentioned RTX when 20 series launched. and not a lot of people felt like it was worth an upgrade. But when the 30 series launched, the performance was there, the pandemic was there, and there were also a lot of sanctions happening to China, where these GPUs are manufactured mainly. So these things kind of created the hot pot of trouble that we were in early on. And what are your thoughts?
I just wanted to bring up some things that are being brought up in the chat. We have Mike who's joining us. He's always a great commenter on a lot of the videos we've been posting, and he's making some comments, and I just wanted to bring those to light. When we say shortage, we're talking from a consumer standpoint where everything looks like it's out. Remember trying to get toilet paper? Yeah.
Yep.
The supply was the same. They just couldn't make it fast enough due to the huge demand. And it's kind of the same with this. There is a huge demand for GPUs. Everyone got put into lockdown. Nobody had anything to do except for play video games. And everyone realized that their computers were 8 years old. And so all the people who normally were skipping the computer upgrades and just moving to tablets and things like that. Remember that whole PC is in decline story that had been going around for 6 years. We've been in decline kind of thing.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden, all of those PCs that were in decline got upgraded. And so there's this huge demand. And Mike points out that all of the numbers that we see are supply numbers from the retailer's point of view, not necessarily supply channel. The supply channel has been complaining that all the numbers that they're seeing are the same as always, not ramped up for the higher demand. And that is causing the constraints that we're seeing on the end. And to also make matters worse, we just had Bitcoin cresting 40,000, 47,000 right now. I don't know. I haven't been tracking it too closely.
It was 41 or 42 when I was last looking at it.
Yeah, it is at 47. It is at $47,003.
Yeah, so it's been taking off, which has caused a little bit of a mining boom. And let me clarify this for everyone who gets it wrong: they are not mining Bitcoin with these GPUs.
No.
Let me put that clear. They are most likely mining Ethereum or some of the altcoins, because those are the ones that are actually generating the money.
Realistically, what I think a lot of what's happening is that people on 5700 XTs, on older cards, the AMD cards, are mining on those cards.
Yeah.
But those people, as they sell their cards to miners, need a new graphics card, because if you have a 5700 XT and it's going for $600 on eBay, you're going to take that $600. But then what are you going to do afterwards? You're going to try to buy a new GPU.
Right.
So then that's even more demand that's being put on the market.
But I think the question to ask here is, how many people do you know personally that have sold their old dated GPU for a profit? I feel like a lot of this is just, oh, he said it's worth a lot, so I'm going to sell it for a lot type of situation, People aren't actually putting a real value, a practical value to it. It's more of, supply, demand, and I'm just going to make up numbers at this point. That sort of thing.
Yeah. I think, again, a few of my friends have sold their cards. Sold my primary card. I'm using... by the way, shout out to Keith from WCCF Tech for letting me borrow his 2080 for some testing. I'm going to keep testing with it for a little while.
Testing.
No, I've got to send it back to him, and he's gonna yell at me. Yeah. I know, Keith. Oh wow, he's actually in the chat. That's hilarious.
So someone sold their
Alex with the nose cam.
Okay.
I don't know what you guys want. It's big.
No, he's talking about the angle. Your camera is lower than your face is, and so
I don't know, man. I got this thing propped up on some boxes. It keeps falling.
My webcam is on top of a 32-inch monitor, so you'd be looking down at me and my floor if I wasn't kind of reclined in my chair. So,
am I the only one
straight,
sitting perpendicular?
I'm more like this, and you guys can see. angle there. So I'm trying to keep it good for you guys. And yeah, I'll sport the One Punch shirt. Look at that, guys.
Okay. So yeah, we have the flip sides of this entire crazy GPU.
Yeah, and I have the
situation.
prices on Newegg up right now. Who would pay $649 for a 1660 Super?
Someone with a job and extra money lying around, maybe.
I mean, the DAG size for Ethereum makes it so you can't do it in the 4 gig cards, so the old 570s and whatnot, but they can still mine Kapow and all those other blockchains. So there is a demand for them still, unfortunately. I wish these 4 gig cards were just free and clear for everyone else to pick up and at least have something to fall back on while they wait for supply. But I think it's going to end up being the 4000 series NVIDIA cards when they launch that will actually have a little bit more supply, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think to mitigate the supply, NVIDIA announced, or rather, there's chatter in the industry that NVIDIA is bringing back 1050 Ti and 2060 series cards.
Right.
And we had an interesting conversation just before the stream started, where myself and Alex were discussing selling off his GPU, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're going for so much. It's absurd. Like, it's just.
Yeah. So 20 series cards are coming back in the 2060, the 1050 Ti. We don't know if they're going to be coming at a price cut, but if they're coming at MSRP, I don't know what NVIDIA is doing, but good luck.
Making money, that's what they're doing. That is,
like,
businesses are out to make money. They are not there for your benefit to help you game better for free. You know, they are not doing that. They want to make money, and they will make money.
By the way, has that 20% market share rule thingy been discussed on the channel before?
The 20%
What's that?
For
market
NVIDIA?
share?
Yeah, how NVIDIA controls market share for their vendors. That's been covered here?
I don't think we have.
Actually, no.
Not specifically.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about something else. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I heard from GPU insiders that that's actually a thing where, if a certain OEM crosses a certain threshold of GPUs sold, NVIDIA kind of rebalances that by cutting supply and whatnot. I don't know how much of this is true, but
it wouldn't shock me.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Something that Mike Brazone brought up again that I've been kind of neglecting to address directly, with mining being a financial endeavor, it becomes a financial or a commercial market for these GPUs. Gamers have always just been using them for entertainment, enjoyment, so it's a luxury expense for us, and we haven't really had much competition for that except for people that could use CUDA and things on the more gamer grade rather than the enterprise type GPUs. But now the gamer grade GPUs have a commercial market to compete with gamers against. It's no longer how much is somebody willing to pay for a commodity. This is how much can somebody make out of a graphics card in a reasonable amount of time, and then the price point gets set from that. And that's what we're seeing. If you have a 3080, you could be mining on it, even with Ethereum right now, and be making practically $10 in profit a day after power is considered. I mean, $10 a day in profit. Now, whether that's exactly, it might be $8 now, it might be higher. I don't know. I haven't been following it closely, but I did hear when it hit 10. And I mean, that's how it was back in the first mining craze, when you could have a 1080 Ti mining and make $5 to $10 a day per card. And I mean, I had 4 1080 Ti's mining back then. But my wife is using one now. I'm using one. I used it to offset the cost of the card so that
And
I could game.
what card is this that you're saying is getting about $10 now?
The 3080.
3080.
Well,
Yeah.
the thing about that, and a part of the reason why the 5700 XTs are selling so well in the 5700s, is they're getting close to that, and they are, people aren't selling them for $800. That's a big reason why there's so much demand for these older AMD cards, and why the price on them is just skyrocketed.
Well, and combine that with the rumor. I haven't verified it myself, and I haven't read too much on it, but there is that rumor that AMD, or not AMD, but NVIDIA had sold 500,000 GPUs directly to miners. Now, whether that was verified or validated, I can't say. So it's allegedly.
Yeah, that was a strange situation. I think those cards were lost, and then NVIDIA found them, and then NVIDIA said that they weren't lost. It was a very strange situation. Let me look it up.
Suspicious a little bit.
Yeah, lost.
Yeah. Somebody in the chat just said you're getting about $9 a day from a 5700 XT.
Yeah. So
I should be mining.
I've actually I've been mining on my GPU. I actually had to pause my mining for this live stream. So you guys, I'm doing this for you. I'm no longer making it's actually about $3 or $3.50 a day for the 1080 Ti. I have mine a little downclocked, so I'm only burning about 150 watts. I mean, I'm not trying too hard, but I got solar panels, and so my solar production is helping run these cards, so it reduces my cost even that much more.
Yeah, my electricity bill is like $250 a month. I don't think it's gonna get very high, considering I live in the Middle East, and electricity is pretty cheap here. I don't know what the numbers are exactly. I don't pay the bills, but I'm pretty sure it would be a little profitable for me, considering that I have a 5700 XT that's, not doing a lot of heavy lifting.
Well, I during the first mining craze had about 30 GPUs in my slave pens, and I was...
Where do you get the money for that? Did you take out a loan, max out your cards? What did you do, man?
I'm not a professional writer. Alex gets the joke.
Yes.
Yeah, I am an IT specialist by trade, and so I have my actual income to help me at least have credit limits that I can buy this for, mine on it, and then sell it. That's I mined on my stuff for about 6 to 9 months, and then I started parting out the parts while the GPUs were still lucrative, and practically made purchase price on the cards after 9 months of mining. So that's the smart way to do it, guys.
My friend Kirk, my superior, you're gonna teach me Bitcoin and mining after this.
It's honestly not that hard if you're mining like in a Windows setup, and you're mining one GPU. You could just use NiceHash. If you're going to have a whole setup and you're going to worry about the power efficiency of all of them, then there's like the custom BIOSes and running the miners in Linux and stuff. And
I actually loaded my own bootstraps on my 570s and things like that. And I ran them pretty lean. They were about 100 watts each, with the overclocked memory and things like that. And they were running pretty good. They were profitable for quite a while, and I parted them out before the crash, and so I maintained a lot of the value. They obviously weren't being resold for the same price as they were during their high pricing days, like right now with the current GPUs. But the thing I had to manage most was the power utilization. I actually added wiring to my garage so that I could run it off a 240 volt. And then I set up a grow tent, one of those, indoor hydroponic grow tents. I set up one of those with a ventilation system, and I just air conditioned them with normal summer air, which is about 90 Fahrenheit here, which is I don't know what that is in Celsius. 30. I'll guess 32.
Okay.
And so
So
it was
yeah,
hot, but I vented it all directly outdoors. Didn't have to worry too much about the dust. It was fine.
All right. So,
I'm
mining is a thing.
I just want to cut you off for 1 second
Yeah.
though. I keep seeing on the stream the XFX Merc card, the
Yeah.
6900 XT.
Right.
Yeah.
Man, I'd like to use one of those.
Same.
Notice how there's only like, 20, 24 devices here, and then all of a sudden it just is out of stock on everything. I mean, I've actually been watching this particular live stream, but I am looking and looking. Hey, look, you can get a 5600X on Amazon right now. It's in stock, but it's probably a reseller that's charging $500 for it. I mean, I've had
Your frame rate won't drop if you play on the lowest settings.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
He has some really funny memes on the thing. I actually have a lot more. I actually wrote a bot that would monitor Amazon, Newegg, and I started doing it with Best Buy, and then I'm like, that was more of an academic exercise for me. I went and just watched the stream. It's whatever.
What best to mine with RX 5700?
There's actually a What to Mine website. If you go into Google, whatever, just type in What to Mine, you'll find it. It'll tell you the best thing to mine with your particular GPU, with your particular power costs. For me, my power costs during the winter are about 11 cents per kilowatt hour, and so let that, for all you Europeans that are paying $50 for your renewable energy and stuff, we have a lot of sun here. I'm in the western U.S., so it's desert climate. My solar panels go full sun for most of the summer. It's pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
We'll trade 5700 XT for 2080 Ti. You know, that'll probably work for somebody. That would probably work on somebody.
Yeah, especially if they're mining. But no, I've been taking the opportunity and just sticking my video card to mine, and just when I'm not using it, it's just mining away. And yeah, I'm getting maybe $10 a day between my couple of GPUs, before cost of electricity, of course.
I'm just looking forward to a time where I can buy a modern new GPU, I guess, either a 6000 series or a 3000 series.
Well, the thing
not pay
that
a little over
me,
retail. Pay a lot over retail.
You saw the DLSS alternative that AMD announced, right?
Yep. FidelityFX, was it?
It was in their Fidelity branding, but they called it something else. I've been really busy this week, guys. Like, I haven't even read tech news. The most I got was through maybe half a Moore's Law episode at double speed, But they have the alternative that is more of a software rendered thing, even. So you don't even have to have RT cores or any of the tensor cores that NVIDIA uses to do their DLSS. And so it theoretically could work on both AMD and NVIDIA hardware.
Right. So I have the news report here. AMD FidelityFX Super-Resolution, which is a mouthful, might launch in March to challenge NVIDIA DLSS.
Yeah. And I'm super stoked for that because, well, I can't get an NVIDIA card to even try DLSS on. And if you look at the screenshots that they provided, you can see they have cross-hatched fence gate or a fencing that just looks terrible with normal DLSS, and they show it being nice and clear, almost like native 4K. So if they can, that's actually an article I wanted to do. Gamers Nexus actually made a video doing basically what I wanted to make an article of, and that was comparing DLS quality in different circumstances that would be very hard for DLSS to work properly on.
Right.
And it works pretty good, but checkerboarding also works pretty good too, you know?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot
So
of technique that they use in consoles to make those look really good at 4K, even though they might be a little underpowered, or at least they used to be. Nowadays, they're doing better than most people can get in their computer because of the supply constraints. We'll call them. We won't call it a shortage anymore. We'll call it supply constraints.
So I know we didn't really talk about this much before, but I put this in the chat about a week ago. The fact that Sony is selling consoles at below manufacturing cost, apparently. This is a Tech Power Up article. I can link it again.
I had a look at that, but both console manufacturers, in fact, I think Sony and Microsoft are basically selling consoles at hardware loss because they make up for it in the software side of things.
Yeah, and that's been the case since forever. That's the console strategy.
Last generation they were making a profit. They made the stuff cheap enough they could make a profit.
Well, by the end of the series, oh yeah, I'm sure.
Oh no, like I think like a year in they were making a profit on it. They actually intended to make those things cheaper. I mean, come on, how expensive do you think Jaguar SoCs were?
Considering one's running my firewall and doing a hard time at it, yeah, I know how cheap they can be.
You know, speaking of Jaguar, I remember watching one of these LTT videos where they essentially had an Xbox One CPU running Windows. Like it had like a Northbridge chip and everything. They bought it for like what, $60, $70?
Mm-hmm.
Hey Alex, you might have to recenter yourself on your camera.
Oh, am I?
I think people want to see more than your ear. Okay, go ahead, Norman.
Yeah, I was just like, why can't we just have more of these instead of like the lower end APUs we're getting and whatnot? Like a lower end APU is like what, $50, $60? Like it's under $100, but over here you're getting a motherboard and a processor for like $80 to $100. It's pretty good value.
It's an RPi, but better.
Basically. I mean, its CPU performance was crap on Windows, but still, it's a very good offering if you want a low-cost machine that doesn't suck too much, you know?
I at some point want to talk about the fact that Asus and IKEA is going to have gaming furniture, but we can save that for later. I think the AMD momentum thing is way more interesting. I just think it's hilarious.
We've all seen the gaming furniture that you might be referring to, and maybe not from IKEA, but you remember that bed that had the monitor stand and everything built into it? And everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, I would love to have that." No, you wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't.
No. You want a desk. Ergonomics is important, guys. If you're going to be gaming for 8 hours, laying down in a bed is probably not the way to do it.
No, you're going to like hurt your back and neck.
Just trying to use the keyboard like Linus does in his
your
bathtub.
Wrist or not.
I mean, come on. It's not going to... Yes, I'm going to pull in references to common YouTubers and such. I hope they don't take offense because it's not meant that. I'm just saying it's a funny situation.
I think he knows. I think he knows what he's doing when he puts the keyboard in the bathtub. I think he knows what he's doing.
If LG wants to send me a 55-inch screen that I can mount in my shower, I'm more than happy to show it off while wearing a swimsuit. Just saying.
Speaking of...
Interestingly, I'm sorry to cut you off, but this is interesting. I was having a look at monitors, and Samsung has this really interesting 31.5-inch monitor that was featured in LTT. It's basically a monitor that has a USB-C connection, and if you have a MacBook or like any USB-C Thunderbolt device, you can basically like use that. But the crazy part was that's running Tizen OS. It supports DeX. It supports display over USB-C, and it supports so many other display technologies where I'm just like, So basically, I don't even need any cables to use this thing.
Right.
But the problem is it's only available in North America. And I'm just like, oh, son of a gun. You lucky North Americans.
You got a good question. And Non Aceta Nala, I think I pronounced that right. They said, "Will you do it if I send you the TV?"
Oh.
Well, there are people demanding that I make a waifu body pillow of me in a fireman outfit or something. For all those people that don't get the joke, I do kind of like emergency rescue firefighting on the side. That's my side hustle kind of thing. And, so there was somebody wanting to call me Captain Kirk if I got promoted, but we only vote for who's going to be fire captain every couple of years, and we kind of all have a democratic process about who's going to be fire captain kind of thing. So I haven't been vying for it.
And
no.
And listen, like last time, please don't send me more cute anime girls in my email.
That's alex.stevens@adoredtv.com.
Speaking of that email, when do I get a AdoredTV email address?
Oh, that's right. We haven't given you one yet. We will correct that after the live stream.
Yeah, we'll work on that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, just like Donnie, I have second rights to be able to work on back-end stuff for the website, guys. So
amazing.
I pulled up the Gigabyte review that I did for their G27F gaming monitor, and I bring it up because you were talking about the Samsung monitor with Thunderbolt capability and whatnot. Gigabyte, they actually were talking about sending me this monitor, but their KVM version, which does something similar where they have a USB Type-C that would work over a particular proprietary, well, not proprietary, but like a multimedia link thing. It requires a special port on a laptop that supports it, and it's not just some Type-C connection that you can just plug USB. Right. It has to be a particular type that supports this technology.
Is it the one where it has to be tied into the GPU?
No, it's not. It's not NVLink or anything like that. This is a Type-C connection that supports this particular feature. I asked him the question. Is this capable of being done on just a normal tech? I didn't hear back a positive or a negative on that, but unless if it's something that's going to apply to more than just people that managed to get this one laptop from this one vendor, I'm not going to waste your guys' time reading about a KVM monitor that only applied to 3 people.
Yeah.
On the other hand, like if Gigabyte had a larger presence in my region, I would gladly pick up on stuff like that, because I find these kind of technologies very interesting in the sense that they're early adopter now, but what is their potential 10 years or 5 years down the line?
Sure.
And 5 years down the line, it would probably be this great technology. I would have actually done it if I had a device that could have used it, so I could have shown off how to use it, because that's what I want to do. Is I want to emphasize the benefits of things like that, because it would go over great in my offices, because we have people that are using these docking stations, and they complain about their laptops and their desktops and things like that, having to swap monitors or anything. We've basically just given them desktop replacement devices, rather than giving them a desktop to work off at work and a laptop to take home, just because.
So how does that work, if you don't mind me asking? Kind of sounds interesting.
Well, they have a dock that has a dual monitor output, a bunch of USB ports and stuff, and it all runs over USB 3.0. And
right.
The monitors run at 30 frames per second. You can kind of see the pixelation as they try to attempt to optimize that bandwidth, because USB Type C and all those 10, 20 gig versions, the 3.1, 3.2 stuff, which USB naming conventions are terrible, by the way.
They are.
They are.
They should have just called it USB 4, USB 5, whatever, but that's neither here nor there. You can see them trying to optimize the bandwidth to provide services to all these things. And even over USB 3, they're having a hard time doing it. And
yeah, in fact, I think Asus made this point with one of their laptops, which is one of those gaming thin lights where they have an external GPU dock. They were like, listen, we don't have enough bandwidth over USB-C or Thunderbolt, so we have to use this proprietary port, which is like USB-C and PCIe, I think, or something like that. And I see a lot of other laptop makers make the same statement saying, hey, that's not the same. So it's definitely an industry-wide issue that really needs to be corrected soon.
Yeah. Well, with this KVM monitor, you could have your keyboard and mouse plugged into the monitor, and you could do the KVM sequences to be able to flip over from a PC to a laptop and back and forth without having to actually mess with any of the cables, things like that. So it was like a KVM built into the monitor through this special USB link.
Good.
It was actually really intriguing. Yeah. It had the network port and all of that on the monitor, and it was really nice. I'm assuming it's the same panel as this G27F. So if you want to see the specs of the screen, it is actually a really good screen. It's only 1080p in the one I reviewed, but Alex actually reviewed the 1440 curved version, and he did a great job on that. So go check out that review as well. And the numbers came out pretty nice. The monitor
that I'm using right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Check the chat.
And the Acer that I'm using right now, that's a 32-inch curved screen, which I really like as well. As that review is on the website as well. It's like the Acer EQ something or other, or ED something or other. Yeah, right here. I mean, buyer beware. There is some issues with it. I have ran into some glitches dealing with it. You can see right here, half the screen is black, and just turning it off and back on again fixes this. And I've actually had to RMA my monitor because of some distortion at the bottom of the screen. It would just go weird.
Oh, I think I know what this is. I think this is one of those displays where they've essentially put two panels together, and this causes that
Actually,
issue.
No. This is newer than that, but I think that's the underlying cause for this half black, half not screen.
Right.
And I personally thought that it might be, but it's a single HDMI link that runs the whole panel. You don't have to do the two links and have it be two monitor, any of that. Any of that early stuff that people had to do when they were first dealing with 4K screens. Yep. But I think the technology is still kind of remnant in there, and that's kind of what's being seen. But I RMA'd this monitor. The one I got back did it once, and it hasn't done it since. But I had to RMA it because of distortion that would cause the bottom portion of the screen to just kind of have dancing distortion lines and things. And so make sure you factor in about a $50 shipping return within the warranty period, because but other than that, it is a sweet monitor. I mean, you calibrate it, it gets rid of some of this warm hue, and it's actually one of the higher scoring for your sRGB. Look, it has the 96 coverage and 122, whereas the one that Alex looked at was only 92 with 120. And so it's definitely got some pretty good color reproduction for being as cheap as it is. It's on sale quite regularly in the $329 range.
It's the one that I've got. It's a really fantastic monitor. The only issue that I'm going to give you guys is if you are planning to use a AMD graphics card with it and use FreeSync, it does have FreeSync flicker. If you use an NVIDIA card on the NVIDIA FreeSync, it doesn't come up. This seems to be, though, more of an AMD graphics card issue, although I tried with 3 different ones and it kept coming up. So it's weird. I think it's more on AMD's side of the implementation than anything.
Yeah, and I actually was using FreeSync and G-Sync on my panel that Gigabyte sent me, and it actually worked out fine for both video cards. I just had to use the display port instead of the HDMI.
Yeah, I'm using the display ports. I tried the HDMIs. It didn't really make a big difference.
Yeah.
I just have to...
So we're getting some people in the chat saying that we didn't really give anybody a like a heads up. And in the future we will. We just spent a little while trying to work out the kinks behind this, so we didn't want to say.
We spent some time in the green room for sure.
Yeah. We didn't want anybody to say we'll be here at We originally planned to have this start at 2 p.m. and we didn't get started until what, 3:30?
Well, originally we were supposed to do this like a week back.
Yeah.
I've been pushing for a podcast for a while. Overvolted for a while now. Because
we've been having some issues getting everybody together and stuff. So
for context, it's like 1 a.m. in the morning for me over here. And it's been crazy.
Yep, and we hopefully will get some of our other writers like Bizud on here. He's actually local to my time, so that might work really good.
One of our Discord guys too became a writer. Curry Gohan. I forget what his real name is because he's just been in the Discord as Curry Gohan for so long.
Yes.
Right.
Don't spit when you talk. Your dash might be contagious.
Yeah.
Funny guy.
Stacy, we did post the Freethinker channel like a few times in there. I don't know if the link's not coming up or something.
And if you're in the Discord, guys, if you join Patreon, you automatically get put into the Discord, or not automatically. It's still a manual process for us. We don't have APIs calls but we'll add you to the Discord so you guys can have access to our Q&A channel in there. The Freethinker has a temporary channel in there for now until they can get their own Discord server.
Yep.
If that's something that Jim wants to do, we still do get to talk to him a little bit on the back end, but he's handed the keys over to our editor-in-chief, Donnie, and so...
all hail Donnie.
Right. Ooh.
Yes.
We give him crap about it all the time. It's great. And so we are not necessarily an independent entity since Adored is still the branding and all of that. And so Jim is still somewhat involved in a business sense. But as far as the content is concerned, it's kind of a democratic process here. I try to get the Overvolted podcast stuff all sorted out and everything with the help of our other writers. As for the direction, the content we want to put on the website, it's all individual. If we see something that tickles our fancy, or if you guys make a recommendation of, hey, check this out, we go and look at it and we can write a piece about it. That's just how it works.
And
we
more
also
so in the mobile space.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I said we also answer podcast questions in the podcast questions channel, which we haven't done for a while because we haven't done a podcast in a while.
Wait, we have a podcast questions channel?
We do.
Where is that?
It's right under the AdoredTV thing.
Right. Here we go. Yeah.
So, one of the other topics I wanted to touch base on, since we've primarily been consumer GPU so far, let's chat a little bit about security, shall we?
Sure.
I'm not sure who's been paying attention to the security feeds of things, but part of my job at work is to be security, right? I work in like the energy sector, things like that. So I have to deal with this particular stuff on a daily basis. We have somebody who I hesitate to use the term, but hacked into the Florida city, or not a Florida city. It's Old Smar is the name of the town. 15,000 people being serviced by a water treatment plant, and they get hacked into, and according to the article, the Register actually did some really good investigative journalism on this. It has a lot more detail than a lot of websites provided, but a operator was sitting at a terminal that was used as a diagnostic terminal. It had ties to a lot of the controllers in the plant, and all the automated systems, so that if there was a problem with the process, it could be centrally viewed by a remote resource, a contracting company, to investigate the issue and resolve problems with the process. Well,
Right.
they had TeamViewer installed, most likely as a service that is able to be remote accessed with or without password by a particular account. And that's my assumption. It just mentions they had TeamViewer installed, and the operator that was sitting at the terminal saw all of a sudden their mouse start moving and navigating through their HMI, their human machine interface stuff, basically the graphics that show them the plant process. And they went to a part of the screen eventually that allowed them to increase the amount of base that they put into the water supply to level out the pH. And it's basically lye. It was sodium nitrate, something like that. And they increased it from its supposed rate up to about 11,000. So if it's 100 times, that means it's probably normally at 110 parts per million. They upped it to 11,000 parts per million, which would have made the water extremely base, which starts reacting almost like acid would, if you know how acid works. But
it's pretty rough.
It's not going to just dump an entire vat into it. It injects it as it flows through, and so it will gradually turn the water into a heavy base. And they use it to strip heavy minerals out of the water process and things like that. But they have a lot of backup systems that monitor the pH levels and things independent of the settings that actually inject that. And so there's layers of controls to fix it. It would have stopped the process before that water made it into the drinking water or something. But the control operator immediately noticed. He waited for the mouse to stop moving and knew that the guy had logged off before immediately going and correcting the setting. So this guy was very attentive, but the big thing is security. I mean, I have in my environment set up a TeamViewer for contractor remote access, but it required me to provide the user and password and then set up new firewall rules, or at least undisable firewall rules, to allow that TeamViewer access, and then have very constructed controls around remote access, especially for contractors. And the box that they remoted onto wasn't directly into a machine that had access. They would have to RDP from there into some machine that has access. And I would sit and monitor that box that they remoted into in order to make sure that they're not doing something wrong, kind of a thing. So very controlled circumstance where somebody would have access to a SCADA network or environment. And obviously not everyone follows those protocols because it's too burdensome, too costly, whatever. You know, maybe they don't have the expertise in-house to set it up properly, but let's see.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The FBI and the Secret Service are investigating.
Yes.
Doesn't this kind of head towards the route of terrorism?
Well, because it was a water treatment facility, they would be managed by the Department of Homeland Security. And
the Secret Service is a weird one.
Yeah.
Well, it's because it's DHS. They probably roped in the Secret Service, but most likely it's going to be DHS with the FBI running on this, trying to figure out who it was that essentially attacked this plant. The fact that they knew how to use the HMI, my guess is that it's probably somebody who was familiar with the software that was in use. So maybe it was Honeywell, maybe it was something.
Former contractors?
It could be a former contractor, depending on how customized the UI is. But if it's a standard system like a Honeywell or something like that, it should be pretty obvious. Now, it was probably somebody who was familiar with the water treatment processes, or at least general processes. And so Who knows? I doubt it was state sponsored since it was a small plant, but it was most likely opportunistic as well. My guess is that the person who controlled the TeamViewer account, that their email got compromised.
Yeah.
And so I bet you this fell back to a phishing exercise.
You know, if there was a certain president in office, you know what they would have said?
What?
It was China.
It was a foreign actor. Russia, China, who knows?
It was all them. It was their acts.
I'm thinking it was most likely just a general phisher that managed to fish the account, and then they sold it to somebody who wanted it.
Yeah.
Or it could be like a 15-year-old who got like lucky and was just like, "Oh, let me try this out."
Well, we'll find out from the investigation. If they track it back to somebody, then it most likely was an inexperienced person. If they can't find who it is and they just have to say it was China or Russia or North Korea, then it most likely was just somebody more skilled.
There's a question. There's a statement in the chat. Justin Corpoy. Malice is supposed to look like stupidity or incompetence. In my experience, it's usually both of the last two. It's not malice. Like, I have seen people do the most stupid things. Like, someone tried to put a USB-C inside a USB-A and be like, "Oh, they're all USB, right?" And they broke the port. Like, come on.
Yeah.
How?
My kids have broken many a micro USB port because they're keyed, and so you have to have them one way or another.
Oh, man.
It's actually why I really like USB-C. I really do.
Kirk, please stop giving me like flashbacks. Please, just let's.
PTSD.
This is why I like.
It's it's not that serious. I don't want to insult anybody that actually has PTSD. It's really frustrating.
Yeah, it is. But what's funny is that we got a good
question. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's funny that the world's most hated fruit company kind of solved these things early on, even though they charge a butt ton for everything. Like, they solved it pretty early on. MagSafe, Lightning. We got to give credit where it's due, and it's definitely due there.
They're a phenomenal company when it comes to user experience, and that's exactly what it is. You got your MagSafe, and you got your Thunderbolt kind of stuff that they've mimicked, and it's great. Yeah. It really is.
And full disclosure, I don't say this because I worked for them.
Look, Android.
So
nice.
I want to check one of the. So a lot of the questions were, when do you think the next podcast will be? Are you guys going to do a podcast for Christmas?
Well, that's kind of the thing we didn't.
One. We have a good one though.
We almost didn't do it this weekend because of Valentine's, actually.
Yep.
But my wife is rather understanding. She knows I like tech, and so.
God bless her.
Yeah. But, and I've already got the entire actual Valentine's Day booked out for her. So she's already like, okay, fine. I'm going to get Valentine's Day, so you have to do it on Saturday.
So we have a good question here, which is, what was your favorite game of the past year?
Fallout 76 for me.
Wow.
I liked the Isolationist game that came out. I think everyone played it, didn't they? I mean...
Which one?
I'm being facetious.
I am sure I did not play.
I'm being facetious, though. I think it was called Lockdown or something.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Funny.
It's really sad when lockdown goes into effect and you realize that your life didn't actually change.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, we're not supposed to just stay at home and play video games and talk to people on the computer? What is this world?
So, I can see that a lot of people said that they like Cyberpunk. And Ryan already said it, and that was one of the things that people put in the chat.
Yes.
For me, and happy anniversary, Johnny.
We got to get a non-official sponsor moment here. There we go. You guys will
What
see
did I
that
miss?
on the screen.
Let me see.
They're on a slight delay too. They
Yep.
can't see me visually because of how webcams can only have
Yes.
one piece of software attached to them at a time. I need like 2 webcams, guys.
Is it Monster? Is that our?
No.
Monster?
It's a Rockstar, but they have a new formula now, and it tastes like garbage. It's like a Red Bull or a Monster drink. It's really strong, fruity, not like their original can. Notice the red lid top. So I'm still working through my stockpile of originals, and then I think I'm gonna kick Rockstar to the curb because their new stuff just tastes terrible.
Right.
But yeah, so for me, the best game of my favorite game of the year was Doom Eternal.
All right.
I get to live vicariously through my wife. My wife plays all these video games. I bought her Cyberpunk for Christmas, and she let me go back. When we were first married, about 2-3 years into our marriage, I got her Mass Effect 3 for Christmas. I had no wife for 2 months. I had no wife. She was just somewhere. I don't know where, but
It's a great game.
She never talked to me.
I don't blame
We went to
it's
bed
fun.
at separate times, even because she was just playing this thing solid.
It's a great game.
Yep. Mass Effect is a really good game. Like,
they're remastering it.
The Ultimate Edition or
Legendary, I think it was the Mass Effect Legendary.
Not Ultimate, Legendary Edition.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see, Smash.
But I hear it's gonna be
almost 100
expensive.
likes. What else does it stand for? What are they talking about? It.
What is it? What does it stand for? We're almost 100%.
No. Yeah, just yeah.
All right. Let's move to the next topic, I guess.
I like video games, guys.
Yes, like Jim
games.
is Scottish, but he is not on the Overvolted podcast. He actually is doing videos on Freethinker because he's kind of gotten bored actually with the tech scene. He's done a lot of analytics. He's a really analytical thinker. And right now, tech isn't as much brain candy for him as it used to be back when Ryzen chiplets were becoming a thing and he was doing all the analyzing on how that will impact the industry, and it has. It's really impacted a lot of the verticals, a lot of the supply. I mean, can you imagine if they were trying to get 16 cores into a single die? We'd still be paying Intel's server pricing if that was the case. I mean, before Ryzen came out, I knew I needed more CPU. I was stuck on i7s with only 4-core, 8-thread. And I just couldn't justify the price increase. Nolan?
I was looking to build a PC in the Sandy Bridge days. That's when I first knew I wanted a PC. And what I saw was, hey, why are all these CPUs only 4 cores? And then AMD had their FX series with 8 cores, and I was like, hey, that's amazing. You know, and I always wondered, why can't Team Blue do 8 cores? You know, I didn't understand these things at the time. I mean, keep in mind, I'm 23 right now. Sandy Bridge was like, what, more than 10 years back. You know, I didn't understand these things back then, but now I do understand them. I can't stop feeling kind of angry. Like, I'm like, you could have done it back then. You had the engineering samples for it. LTT covered this. I mean,
they didn't want to.
So much.
They just didn't want to.
There was no financial reason to do so. Like, they weren't going to lose market share to anyone trying to make more cores.
Yeah.
They could just continue to sell quad cores at those prices and continue to make money.
But they did have the high-end desktop line. So if you wanted 6 or 8 cores, you could buy Xeon Lights.
Which is why I bought X99.
Yeah, but now that we look at all these things, we're just like, they kind of dug the grave in that sense, you know? Like,
yeah, they were complacent.
Pat Kissinger coming back, it's all great news, but your you're used to winning by doing nothing.
Yep.
You know, so what's gonna happen now, or how are you gonna change that mindset? Because I don't want to use the word complacency, but there's no other way to say it. I love some of the stuff Intel's doing.
Well,
I will be the first to say it. I have never had driver issues or any issues with any Intel SKU that I've owned, right?
they
I've had a
have the
lot of driver issues
financial
with AMD.
resources to prove all of that
Yeah.
stuff a lot more than
Yeah.
even AMD.
Yeah, AMD's had their issues, but if I level the playing field, AMD has been pulling punches for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but
Well,
you know,
it's the same thing as with Intel. If you have a product that is obviously a good choice and provides competition, there's no reason to outdo yourself at a faster than worthwhile pace. Like they can take a little bit more time to work on it, polish it a little bit, but definitely vet it and make sure that there's not something like meltdown waiting in the wing for them to get caught off guard by. I mean, that.
But Intel invested. I know. So Supreme Commander was one of those games to utilize multi-threading initially, and I saw some of their slides from some of their presentations, and they had Intel engineers come and help them with the entire multi-threading thing, and I was like, okay, even though Intel's done all the stuff that I am against, they still have a lot of pros to them, you know, like they helped the sent an engineer to work on this. I remember on my MacBook Pro, I had installed the beta version of the Intel utility that allows me to see my wattage, and it crashed my Mac a day before my final project was due, and I had not committed any changes on like the last day because of
save frequently, guys. I tell it to my users all the time.
Yeah.
They call and complain, my Word crashed, my Excel crashed. It's like, did you save? I haven't saved for like 3 hours. And it's like, do you have autosave turned on? No, I turned it off. It's that little toggle in the top right corner, right? They turned it off because it took too long or whatever, you know? It's like...
Yeah, but in this situation, an Intel engineer who I contacted, I was like, yo, you built it. I'm in a pickle. You gotta fix it. Yeah. I had it fixed within 15 minutes because he recompiled the code then and there, and he sent me a DMG file.
Nice.
That's
I love having taps in like that. I mean, I've had to deal with bugs where I have provided, because I decompiled Java code or whatever, I have provided source file, line number, and new code to fix their broken code, and still could not get it fixed by the company. It's like, come on, I'm giving you a bone here. You have this show stop bug for anyone that uses this feature, and you guys are just ignoring this and not even issuing a hot fix, nothing. And even in multiple success releases after the fact, they never fixed it. 6 months I was dealing with, and they never fixed it. I actually wrote code that interfaced between their stuff and where this stuff was going because it was an export process, right? I wrote stuff that would translate their export into something that was correct before it would go on to where it needed to go. And yes, I'm not sure how much you know of my history, Noman, but I am developer / whatever. You know, I am a wild card, the jack of all trades, master of none.
I get you there. I am there as well. I understand A to Z's of the business side, the tech. In fact, I really made a play at trying to get into product management, but that didn't work out. You know, pandemic. So my story is that I got laid off before the pandemic. A week into the pandemic, which sucked, you know. But after that, during the pandemic, I was like, yeah, okay, I didn't get the product manager thing, but now I'm like gunning towards it. And that's a jack of all trades thing, you know. It's It's nice. Anyway, let's transition to our Intel story, if that's all right with you guys.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. So the Intel Core i9 11900KF heats up to 98 degrees Celsius, 250 watts of power. I get it, it's a single core running at 5 gigahertz, but come on, guys. That's like, I mean, so it can hit up to 5.3 gigahertz, but 5.3 gigahertz at 250 watts, that's a lot of power.
Yeah.
I mean, if
Yeah,
I
that
want to,
is.
like, if it's cold outside and I want to heat myself up, it makes sense, but 250 watts for a CPU? Too much. I mean, I gave NVIDIA flack for having 200 plus watt GPUs. So a CPU that's a fraction of the cores, I get it, you have more frequency, but that's not what people want anymore. They want power efficiency, you know? Ryzen's like what? Both of their SKUs are like what, 100 watts? And 120 watts if you overclock them and max them out and whatnot.
Mhm.
At least for the 8-core SKUs. That's definitely a room for improvement, you know? His thoughts, reactions.
No, I mean, we're Kirk's right now trying to find the link
Yeah.
to the article that you brought up.
I didn't have it queued up.
I mean, Intel is leaning on whatever they can, as long as it's the frequency and max performance, they will push whatever advantage they have as hard as they can. Power be damned. That's really what's happening here.
Yeah.
Like, what are they supposed to do? Just be slower than AMD? Are they just supposed to be, because they're not going to be more power efficient at any point. They're just going to be
For
worse
sure.
off.
I have sent you the link on Discord, by the way.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Yep.
KF.
Yeah, it's... Oh, by the way, I really like the fact that their XE graphics don't suck anymore. I mean, their integrated graphics are good. Like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I thought you meant the card that was like... Never mind.
oh, the card we're never going to get?
Yes, the one that was very... sad. Sad is the word I'm looking for. I
think
there's no more eloquent way I could put it. It's just sad. It's just,
well, did you see all those designer graphics cards, and then when they actually came out with it, it looked like an old school NVIDIA card?
Yes.
Just some piece of metal with a fan on it.
Yeah, and you guys are missing the best part. It only works with Intel CPUs.
Of course, because vendor lock-in and all that, right?
And you guys give crap to Apple.
Well, you know what? To be fair,
I give crap to Intel too.
Hold on. To be fair to this Rocket Lake chip, it will give people a reason to water cool again. There you go.
Yeah, 360 millimeter liquid cooled, and it's still around 98 degrees.
Like a custom loop. Like, get yourself a custom loop. There you go.
It just runs outside of the swimming pool. You'll have a heated pool during the winter. It's great.
I just think that Intel should pay royalties to NZXT and these water cool manufacturers for like raising their sales. It's fair, you know.
Maybe they should just put a condenser cooler with it, like they have on stage. Just sell one of those with of course, with the proper refrigerant in it, not the illegal stuff that they had to use.
Hey, that being said, I want to see how these things perform. Maybe they're really great. This will probably be how Intel takes the gaming crown back, which I have an article based on some of the older AMD chips up against the new ones and how they really did improve. Go ahead.
So AMD Rocket Lake 11 Gen. Okay, they take the performance crown. But keep in mind, Ryzen came out like what, 4 months back?
Yeah, but how hard is it to buy one?
No.
It's actually not that hard. Not that hard. Like I said, there was a 5800X right there on Amazon. You can go get it. It's probably $50 more than MSRP, but
I've got a 5600 5800X sitting right now in a
The
motherboard.
The 5800X has actually been quite readily available. Most of the reason is because it's actually still at $550 to $600 range, and nobody's gonna want to pay that for the 5800X when they could have just got the 59 or even just a 56.
I want a 5900X. I'm gonna be honest with you. I want a 5900X.
Okay, I don't need one, but I want one as well. But I know for a fact I'm gonna have to get a new cooler for my PC just to run that. So I'm just like, I'm good for now.
I'm going to need a new motherboard because I'm still rocking an X370 board. So if Gigabyte's listening, no, just kidding. I like to make, I like to tease a lot of potential sponsors or something. I mean, look, I got this Western Digital cozy for my can.
I love that merch. Anyway, the point I was making earlier is that, okay, so Intel's coming out with Rocket Lake in March? That's Jan, Feb, March. That's 3 months down the line. AMD came out 4 months before, so that's 7 months in. They have a competitor. Okay, cool. But we know that the current CPU cycle is 1 year, right? 12 to 14 months. Let's say that.
It's so like when you buy an iPhone or something, you know they're going to come out with another one in 1 year.
Yeah, exactly. So Intel's going to have that performance crown for what?
And
6 months.
And
AMD has it again.
To be fair, though, you know, the article we were talking about earlier about Intel taking the market share crown from AMD last year.
Yeah.
It's because of the shortage. I mean, right now you can buy. I think it was Keith who actually said this. He bought an i5 and a motherboard for less than the cost of an MSRP 5600X.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's available. Like, you can just go and buy it. You can just go buy a chip. You can just go buy a motherboard, and you just have it. Like, these aren't great, and yet they're not the performance options. But I mean, I haven't checked for a little while, but last time I checked, if you wanted to buy a 3rd gen Ryzen CPU, you were paying through the nose because they just aren't available.
Okay, so you're basically saying that Intel is the new AMD?
Because they're available. That's really it. They're available.
Got it. So I want to weigh in here. In the Middle East, where I'm located, you have to pay a price premium on 2 components: Ryzen processors and AMD, NVIDIA GPUs. That's the only places you're paying premiums. And there's a reason, because they're really good and there's very less supply, especially allotted to the Middle East. You know, the Middle East is like what? 100 million people? 120 million people? And, you know, we don't get a lot of supply, but there is a lot of demand, surprisingly.
So,
and there are people who are willing to spend those prices that you guys aren't. Right? Yeah. There's always going to be that group of people who are like, oh, $1,000 for a GPU? All right.
Well,
Bazooda actually pointed out that Alder Lake is coming out in the fall. That's the 10 nanometer one?
Yep. I actually look forward to that because I think that uses Foveros, some tech from there. They're actually using 3D stacking and let me actually check that Alder Lake, right?
To tie on those little cores.
Yeah. That's something that really got my... Yeah. So it's using a big little combination where... Yeah. So there are 4 small cores and there is 1 big core. So the 4 small cores are 10 nm base small cores. There's no details here. But the larger one is a Sunny Gulf core, which is interesting. So they're basically picking up some ideas from the mobile space. And
it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I saw some of the SKUs they had using the Foveros design. Like, the Samsung laptop they had was ridiculously thin. And I pray to God that... So if you've heard of the Galaxy Book S, I've mentioned it a few times in my articles. Like, I just find a plug for it somewhere or the other. It's an amazing laptop. It's super thin. and it's super power efficient, and it's on par at what you would get with the ARM laptop. In fact, there's an ARM variant of it as well. And I really think that's the future, the future of mobile is these hybrid processors.
It's fantastic for mobile. I just think that there's this sort of really foolish attitude that we had about 10 years ago, Noam, where it was the idea that desktops were going to go away and ARM was going to dominate everything, and that power efficiency is such an important thing. But I mean, there's always going to be room for big, beefy towers
BFGs,
do heavy tasks. Yeah, there's always going to be room.
I get you for sure. But
in office buildings, these big little things are probably going to be great, because when you're not really using them, they're not that heavy. But when you're really hammering the thing, it has full desktop cores. But the ceiling on these things aren't as high, but it's office work, so people don't really need it.
Yeah. Plus, imagine how thinner laptops are going to get.
Mm-hmm.
So, Kirk, as a system, you're mostly a system admin, right?
You could say that, yeah.
He wears many hats, but yes.
Like this entire last week, I spent implementing NSX in our environment. VMware NSX, the virtualized networking.
Let's say he's a system admin, just for sake of discussion.
Okay, you're just the system admin. That's it.
Yeah.
We'll just say my 30% of my job is system admin from the technical definition. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, Kirk. So we get it. You're smart.
System admin. You see, the VP comes complaining, I don't have battery life. Laptop's clunky as hell. What are you gonna do? Well, you're gonna get them an Ultrabook. Yeah. But then he goes like, oh, the battery's like only 8 hours. I need more than 8 hours because I'm traveling. I'm moving from meeting to meeting.
Then he'd get a Ryzen one, right?
You would.
So, Mike, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, or you could get one of these Foveros laptops that gives you like 25 hours of battery life and pretty decent performance for what's basically Word and Excel, right?
Yeah, until you launch a web page and then it uses all the CPU resources because Chrome.
So, Mike has some interesting comments saying that Intel is flooding the market with i9, i7, i7, i5 Comet desktop. Worldwide channel inventory is up 100% in the past 6 weeks, and the 9900K is in the last 2 weeks has jumped up 697%.
Because they can still make 14 nanometer.
Yeah.
Oh, all Comet desktop today is 65% more than Matisse in channel, and Matisse is 13% of VMware 5X, which is that's the 5000 series. Wow. Intel 9th Gen price cramps will crash as 5X ramps.
So I have to admit,
no, that's a fair point. That's a fair point.
Well, like Intel, based on their 14 nanometer war chests.
Okay, whoops. Vermeer is 5 times. Vermeer 5000 is 13% of Matisse. Okay.
Well, let me put it this way: Intel still makes good chips. The thing that made
they're not
Ryzen
terrible.
so attractive is that they provided more compute, more multi-core performance at a decent price. They weren't charging $1,000 for an 8-core CPU in the high-end desktop like Intel used to. Now prices are going up. We have seen that. Their 16-core is, MSRP $799. If you can find it, you might be able to get it for $800-900, and at that point, it starts to become not as good of an option versus some of the Intel components, because there is price points up and down the chain, and if you're going to be paying $200 more for the Intel or for the AMD at a certain price point, you might be able to find an Intel part that is actually a better deal. You'll get more power.
Yeah, more value.
Yes, right. And it's always a value proposition unless if you're, you want the ultimate, no question asked kind of thing.
Right.
So it really depends on where your price point really lands and what you can consider affordable. Like you can get a 3090 right now today. You can go hit buy, but you'll pay $2,100 for it. And is it worth it at that point?
$2,100? I saw one for $2,500.
I've had more than one 3090 in my cart at $1,800, and I'm still sitting here ho-humming over the extra $400 markup. And this is from a reseller, not a scalper even, but XFX from their website. And it's been in my cart, and I've been like, okay, do I actually want this for $1,890 with tax and shipping or whatever? And I'm sitting here going, I really don't.
You know what? If you ever decide to actually go and buy it, just buy NVIDIA stock instead.
I'm not sure if NVIDIA stock would be the good one.
Maybe AMD stock.
I can't make AMD, NVIDIA, any stock recommendations because I am nowhere near an expert. I probably lost more money on stocks than I care to admit,
Yeah.
But right now, with it being a bull market, it's pretty much anyone can look like a smart investor. And that's kind of the problem. You see a lot of YouTubers out there that are actually acting as financial advisors almost, saying, hey, look, you could have bought this stock like I did. See, look, here's my last 6 months and made X number of whatever. Yeah, they're out there making YouTube videos about it because they were successful. The 300 people that made the wrong choices aren't making YouTube videos about it because they don't want to.
No, they're not.
And not only that, but in the bull market, anyone could have picked anything in the tech sector 6 months ago and made a huge percentage gain.
Well, I mean, a lot of that is because of a lot of money that is stuffed into the government.
In my 401k with my work, I hope everyone uses investment portfolios or whatever for retirement. Make sure to set yourself up for the future. Definitely get company match. I'll just put that out there.
Yep.
But my 401k actually has tech and science as a sector that it has some weight in. I don't even remember the percent, but I had it in that for years. And it has an APR or an annual percentage return that is in the 50% mark. I mean, I wish
That's
my entire
pretty high considering like the portfolio number that investment firms usually tell you is like what, 7 to 10%.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, the tech and science stock that it has like 100 different companies in it. Obviously, if Tesla was 10% of the thing, I would have had a lot higher return because that's what 800% in the last year.
You could have retired by now.
Right.
That's how good.
If you have enough money in your 401k to begin with, that's the key. You want to get in, and you want to get in early. You want to contribute as much as you think you can to be able to retire comfortably. All that.
For sure.
Obviously, this is U.S. advice because we have the 401k stuff, but you guys in the Eurozone probably label it something different, but it's essentially an investment portfolio that your company puts a certain amount of your salary into every paycheck just to set you up for the future. Because you don't want to retire and live off of government welfare for your retirement. It just isn't going to be enough. And just putting money into a savings account will lose money because of inflation. So make some smart decisions, work with a financial advisor. I am not one. But set yourself up. Do yourself a favor.
Yep. Anyway, so did we cover the Intel clause back market share from desktop and mobile?
I think we did.
Yes, we did.
Okay. We talked about that.
Right. So let's move on to gaming furniture.
I mean, we're already at an hour and 45 minutes, guys. So if you guys want to keep going, I know Noman has kind of the time crunch since it's probably 2 a.m. for you, maybe even 3.
Oh, yeah.
And so if you want to keep going, we can keep going. We don't necessarily need to talk about IKEA's gaming hardware.
I just thought it was fun.
Let us know
the furniture. I don't have it queued up anyway, but Did we want to do a controversial topic before we close the stream? Do we want to just do one? Just for the outrage, I guess? And everyone definitely read some of Mike Razone's comments in the chat. He's a very intelligent guy. He's worked closely with channels and knows his stuff. So he's made comments on all of our previous videos. We thank you, Mike, for dedicating your time and checking us out and for contributing all these great comments.
Yep.
So the controversial point of the day. There we go. Millennials aren't as tech savvy as people think, according to CNBC. So
is that a trustworthy source?
It's about as trustworthy as MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, any of those. So it's one of the big media conglomerates that everyone likes to attribute politically, and we're gonna not even approach that topic, by the way. So
yes, because that would be
this is an article written.
Well, my only issue with it is it was done by they were reporting on a report by Change the Equation, which after I digged up on it was a Gates thing.
Yeah.
But the data was from 2013.
Yeah, so it is back in 2012, in 2013 kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, data changes pretty quickly. I used to work in e-commerce before this, and we knew that the data we had a week back was not trustworthy. We needed new data every other day. So when we look at these kind of things,
so
we really have to take it with a grain of salt.
Well, we got a unique panel of people here just on this podcast, let alone the people that are in chat. We have a good sampling here. We have millennials.
That's me. Hi.
And then we have Gen Z. What are you considered, Noaman? Do you know?
I don't know. I
think you're a Gen Z. You said you're like 23, 24?
Yeah, 23.
I think you're like Gen Z.
Yeah, and then I'm just before a millennial. I am actually classified probably as a millennial. I haven't looked at the exact like delineations, but I know that like 86 onward is millennials, and so I am pretty close. And some of the fence posts put it back as far as 81 even, but so these are aged 16 to 34 in 2012. That's 9 years ago. I mean, I hate to do math and everything, but 2012 being 9 years ago, my gray hair starts to feel more real. My mom went gray by 30. She was completely gray, and so I got that gene apparently. And I have an overhead light, so it's making it look even worse.
Hey, but you don't see it, but I have grays as well.
They're just covered by that massive headphone. You know, that's all it is.
I mean, it's kind of an interesting article because they said 19% had proficiency below using one function within a generic interface. Yeah. It's pretty sad.
Well, they're talking about sorting emails into pre-existing folders. Like, do you know how to drag and drop? And that's a simple mouse movement. And a lot of our viewers are probably going to be more computer, PC, mouse literate than most anyway. But you got to think most of the people that are growing up right now are only using touch screens. Think about that. My son, for instance, knows how to use YouTube like nobody's business on his phone. And he's only 2.5, by the way.
What?
My 2.5-year-old knows how to pull up videos that he wants to watch on YouTube. For kids, by the way, not the full one. And
right, of course.
He can queue them up and watch them, and he can be entertained. And when he gets bored of one, he'll flip up and then pick another one and jump straight to it and watch it instead. And he knows how to forward and back and pause and stuff. It's crazy, guys.
Yes, we have 2.5-year-olds that use YouTube.
Either Alex got really good at holding still, or he lagged out on us.
No, I'm here.
Yeah, you lagged out on the video.
Yeah, you did.
We'll wait for you to come back. Don't worry. Don't mess with it. We'll see if it jumps back.
Right. But what's interesting is that I was speaking to someone in the product space, and they were telling me, hey, look, we know everything's moving towards mobile, and with the pandemic thing, it's even more. So if you're looking at emerging markets, right? Southeast Asia, mostly, people prefer to have tablets and phones over laptops and desktops. That's just a reality, you know? So
okay, you're back, Alex.
Yep, there we go. I'm back.
yeah. So the future is going to be mobile, no matter what you say. Like, yeah, sure, PC got a little bit of a boost in the pandemic, but
so
it's all going to be mobile.
It depends on what you mean by those uses. If you mean by your average consumer, then yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the pros, the enterprise folks.
Well, the biggest problem though that happens is it is much more comfortable to write at a desk where you're seated properly with a keyboard and a large monitor than it is to use a laptop and hunch over. Because I've rarely ever been in a situation where I did not feel like I'm hunched over on a laptop.
Yeah, but then that's where you have mobility to kind of compensate for that, right?
Yeah, but how often do I need this mobility if I'm doing something like sitting in my office? Do I really
unless if
want
they
the
can
ability?
do an ergonomic keyboard with a laptop, then I am not going to be a laptop person by any stretch of the imagination.
No, I want my 27-inch screen and my 27-inch display and my large full keyboard.
Well, and even the mouse is way more comfortable to use than a trackpad. I mean, you get some of the features that you would find on, say, a Magic Mouse or something, not to name fruit, but you can do stuff. But I actually really like browsing the web with a touchscreen. So I had a laptop with a touchscreen. It was great. I could just hold it in my
No, those are fine.
Flip it. Fine. But I can't use the touchscreen for a lot of things like system administration. All that is entirely mouse driven or typing because you're doing PowerShell or something. But you won't want to do that on a laptop. It's just not that comfortable. Sometimes I'm forced, though.
There are different use cases for every platform. Comfort on PC, I agree with you. In fact, I'm on a PC right now. I'm using one of these nice Razer hand thingies where you can keep your palm. I love these things, but at the same time, in the kind of work I want to get into, I know that I can take my desktop everywhere. I have to take a laptop, so
sure.
You know what a OpenVPN and RDP does for you? You can take your desktop wherever you want, and you can do it on a Chromebook.
Yes.
And you get phenomenal battery life.
What I mean is, so yes, there are definitely positions where you can't bring a desktop with you, but not every job requires people to be on site. Or not every job requires people to be constantly moving around or what have you. And I've heard people say things like, well, with the laptop, you can work around in the house. I totally lose focus and attention when I'm in the kitchen or if I'm in the living room and I'm doing something else. And there's all these other things.
Yeah, but keep in mind, there might be 10 people who say otherwise.
Yeah, but you're not removing the desktop users. That's sort of the thing is I heard for so long that desktops will die off and everything will be everyone will be totally comfortable with the like Intel, or let me change this. Everyone would be using an iPad, and it's a little silly to say that everyone would be using an iPad because have you ever tried to write a 1,500 word email to someone on an iPad?
I don't know.
That's what happened. Is a lot of the I'm talking a few years ago. A lot of the sort of talking heads people who digest information, they can look at their scripts, these sort of like hedge fund managers, these business types who don't actually do the work. They take in content and then they make decisions based off of them. A tablet's great for that because you're just reading a page.
I'll ask you this question.
Go ahead.
Kirk's son growing up is using an iPad, a phone. He's going to be using that. Whatever it might be,
Clarifying.
When he goes to university, might want to write a 1,500-word essay on his tablet or his phone. Usage habits are going to change. We know it's going to be more affordable,
but the problem with that
we don't know what they're going to be.
The problem with that is we're going to see a bunch of people at 35 with major wrist injuries.
Well, let's put it this way.
We'll come up with something for that.
The desktop isn't going to go away because there are going to be professionals like me or just normal power users that are going to need the desktops. Now, the thing that has happened is a paradigm shift in computing where people who normally had a desktop because that was the only choice so that they could read their emails and communicate or watch videos, that kind of stuff, look through their pictures, they would do that on their computer because there was no other option. Now that is done on tablets with the cloud and Netflix and all that other good stuff. They didn't need the computer, so they never upgraded their computer. They bought a tablet and a phone instead. And that works for a majority of content, and it works for a majority of users, and that's what I think Noman is getting at, is the shift from a person sitting at a PC or even a laptop no longer even needing those because their use case is so lightweight.
No. Again, depending on the use case, it's totally true.
But that use case is like 80% of the population. That's the thing.
I just remember hearing the idea that no one will use a desktop.
I'm just making up numbers, by the way, so don't quote me on 80.
I remember hearing the argument being that desktops will die and there will be no relevant use for desktops, which was a little extreme.
That's just extreme reporting. I mean, we try to at Adored not go to extremes like that. We don't sensationalize our articles as clickbait because we don't like having to click through 14 clickbait articles to get to the truth, such as this. Even this article that I was showing about the poisoning of the water supply. I mean, they're calling it poison. It's all just clickbait titles because that's what gets money in today's world on the internet, and it's stupid.
That's not what we're. That's not what.
What's funny is that we have a very large newspaper. It's one of 3 newspapers in the region, and their entire unique selling point is clickbait articles that lead to nothing. And what I feel bad about is that I'm gonna have to write a cover letter and apply to them. And I pray to God no one from there is looking at me saying this. I don't want to say these things, but it's the truth, That's what sells, People like controversy. They like the spicy stuff. They don't like fact.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is
we'll go get a sizzling title or something, but we actually try to make sure the content in the article is presented in a non-sizzle reel fashion, factual, not biased as much as we can, especially depending on the circumstance.
Let's be honest. We take a dump on a lot of companies, but at the same time, let's take NVIDIA, for example. Their AI tech is phenomenal. RTX voice, it's what would convince me to buy a guy who's basically hated on NVIDIA for what they've done on a higher level than Adored did, than Jim did. I am willing to buy a 3060 Ti if it was available, just because of that. You make good products, just be a good company, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and unfortunately,
good stuff. What are you going to do?
Yeah, and unfortunately, consumers don't really worry about whether a company is ethically good when they buy products. They just buy products that are affordable, have good features, and hopefully last long enough for their use case. I mean, I don't buy a video card thinking it's going to die in 3 years or something. And there are people that are even having problems with the 3000 series failing on them. You guys have probably seen reports of that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen to everyone, and hopefully you can get a RMA on it. But
yeah.
I mean, I don't plan on using a 3090 in 6 years from now. Just like nobody would sit here and go, you know what? That HD 5850 was a great card. I'm still running it. You know, hopefully you have upgraded more recent than that. That's all I got. I have a 6770 behind me on a shelf that I'm going to use for decoration in my videos. And yes, we are making video content for AdoredTV.com.
Yep. I've got one that I'm working on with processors.
I actually posted a teaser picture from one of mine that I'm working on in the Discord.
Yeah, I think that's a direction we should definitely head in, because let's be honest, most of our growth is probably going to happen on YouTube. Even TikTok, should we decide to do that. I mean, I'm not for it, but it is what it is. You know, the website always going to be around. We're always going to put out articles on there.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, based on what market trends are telling us, it's going to be all YouTube. Also, we would like to...
Looks like I kicked a little bit of an ant pile on the on the live stream. Everyone's like, "Oh, Ryzen 9800X or GTX."
Yeah, rated right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also.
Yeah. See, there's a guy with a 5850. I told you.
What?
Called him out. I called him out.
9800 GTX.
If this was a year and a half ago, I could have sent you $50 to upgrade to anything better. And it would have been $50.
And he could have actually bought something.
But if you don't need it, if you don't need that higher end GPU because you're still playing just some standard like CSGO and stuff, there's no reason to spend the money. That's the thing.
Yeah, for sure.
The only reason to spend the money is out of a desire to have something, you know, new shiny tech.
Or out of a desire to not draw 200 watts to play those old games.
And yes, Praxis, I am running the 1080 Ti as well. I mean, we have Noman, who's obviously been dumping on it, NVIDIA and whatnot. And
yeah, I do like that card quite a bit. And I say this as someone who owned a Aorus X7 DTV7. That's one of those 1080 laptops, those thin and light 1080 laptops that come out, you know, the non-Max Q ones. And I love the 10 series cards, you know, and I really wanted a 1080 Ti in a laptop, even though I took it up on it.
Yeah, Rocksmith and Star Wars MMO. Yep, that would be why the 5850 works. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can use it for your use case. If you don't need the more power, there's zero reason to spend $800 on a GPU nowadays, guys. And
for sure,
if it's something you need because you're playing Cyberpunk at 4K or trying, then then go ahead. More power to you.
I haven't really played Cyberpunk because I'm waiting for the new GPU.
Right. I'm waiting for it to become stable. How about that?
And besides the fact it was broken.
No, my wife owns it. It's on her account. I had the option to buy it. I bought Forza 4 Horizon instead. But
it's a good game. It's a really good game.
Good game. Yeah.
Exactly. That's why I bought it. Even though it was on the Xbox Pass or whatever.
Oh, I don't care. I don't care.
I mean, I played it for a month on that for like $4, and I liked it. Yeah, I've been meaning to get it since it came out.
What I'm surprised is that, yeah, launched, but we should have had some good lower end options. The lower end market deserves.
They'll be getting something eventually.
Eventually. I mean, I actually want to.
The 1660 is not bad for lower end gaming. It's fine. I mean, 1080p gaming, 30 to 60 frames.
But it doesn't have RTX.
So?
Yes. But
it doesn't have DLSS either, but nobody's crying. It doesn't have RTX voice.
I want DLSS.
Or does it?
I'm an NVIDIA fanboy right now, and I want DLSS.
RTX for Minecraft, I can understand that.
Yes.
But I'll get that through Shaders Mod. I don't care about the Windows 10 Redstone Edition. Screw that noise. I'll stay with the Java version.
Yeah.
Well, boys, we're coming up on about 2 hours now.
Yeah, but that's what
Amazing.
everyone likes. I mean, when we had our normal podcast, we'd have an hour and a half, and people were begging for more. And then, of course, there's the people that logged out after 20 minutes, going, "It's too long." Well,
Or the people saying, "You guys aren't Jim. I hate you." Unsubscribed.
well, we had quite a few
Please-
people
please
that were
don't do
trying to
that.
wonder where the Scottish accent was. Should we all try our best opening? All right, guys.
Hello, guys.
All right, guys.
All right,
All
guys.
Right, guys.
How's it going?
How's it going?
I'm
How's
gonna-
it going?
I think I'm gonna open. Oh wow, Ian Cuttress is here. Tech Potato. How you doing, Ian?
Oh, hey.
Everybody, check out his channel.
I run RTX
Yeah,
voice
he
on
has a great
1060.
podcast.
We
It's
we're
it's-
all pretty big fans of Ian over here. At least I know I am.
Ian, I have to say this. A couple of weeks back, I made a 14 nm slide at a certain company, and then you kind of got angry at it. I'm sorry about that.
And for everyone who thinks RTX broadcast is a worthwhile feature that NVIDIA invented, they didn't. If you can notice, I have this virtual green screen. Alex has a virtual green screen. And Noaman doesn't have a license to be able to use the virtual green screen. But they're running in Teams. I'm running in Zoom. And these companies have had this technology for quite a while. And
Yeah, but-
before RTX thing was even a thing.
But I think RTX voice in terms of
The
what it
voice
does
is
with
different.
AI.
I'm talking about broadcast.
broadcast is
It,
at
it,
very best. But I really
Too far back,
like
Alex.
voice. Alex, you're out of the
You
frame.
guys are
You're
killing
falling
me
as-
here.
you're
You
falling
guys are
asleep
killing
on
me
us.
here.
it's only noon for you. Come on.
What's your minimum specs, or is it specification?
It's the angle that this webcam is at. It's I have to sit really up and not have any support on the back. So
Mike's
Yeah.
wondering how
I'm gonna find
Ian
a
is
better way
running
to
a
rig this thing.
1660 and actually have RTX, or a 1060 and have RTX.
So
there
how-
have been ways to hack it, just so you guys
There
know.
are.
yeah.
It's pretty
Okay,
easy.
I have a question for Ian. Ian, why are you still running a 1060? He mentioned that he's running a 1060, and I'm like, why? Like,
Ian gets boxes and boxes of motherboards. Ian does not get graphics cards, and any graphics cards that he has goes in the test bench. I will answer this question for him
okay,
because I know him this long. He probably bought that 1060 because it's probably all he needs for his daily use.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when you're doing as much as Ian, I doubt he even has time to do a whole lot of gaming. Alex is
I
correct.
think-
yes.
Alex is correct. Okay,
I think
Alex
the
is correct.
last. I think the last
about-
time I talked
What
to
about my
Ian,
apology, Ian? What about that? Is it accepted?
I think the last time I talked to Ian, he said the main game that he was playing at the time was Rocket League. So I mean,
Well, I just got done playing Astroneer. I've been playing some indie games lately, just kind of on the side, while trying to work on a degree because I'm updating my skill set, right? And I've been running for 20 years in IT without certs, without any of that. I just have brute force knowledge, and I'm literally just.
Who is Jim?
Who is Jim? That is
Hello, guys.
AdoredTV, the original guy who started everything. We are basically writing his coattails as writers on the website that he set up because
Oh my
he
God.
doesn't have time to do a lot of this stuff. He's way too busy doing his analytical stuff, especially with his new Freethinker channel.
mhm.
And Ian, you've probably even seen the meme picture of the potato with all the RAM and stuff cords sticking out of it, and, gaming
Of
on a
course he's
potato.
seen it.
Yeah.
course.
You should probably even have that as some random thing that you just pop up during your live streams every once in a while, just for fun.
What's your minimum specifications?
I'm not sure what the minimum specs you're talking about are.
He doesn't remember me. I'm so disappointed. Oh yeah.
We love our potato guy.
Yeah, we do. Anyway,
I've actually been reading Ian's stuff for years, guys. He's definitely helped my knowledge a lot, and I appreciate all of his articles. So definitely check him out.
He's definitely putting that PhD to good use.
Yeah, I mean, not to seem like, we're kissing up to him too much, but
Yeah.
when I started working and I kind of became the CPU guy for the publication I was writing at. This is a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
I asked him a lot of questions and he was very friendly and helpful. But even before that, he was probably the one of the guys I enjoyed reading the most.
Yeah.
In the tech journalism sort of the kind of tech journalism we're in.
Yeah.
And see, he's too busy playing with Threadripper. That's why he doesn't play games.
Well,
he plays with 64 core processors.
Yeah, he's having more fun doing that.
I'm still abusing the Threadripper that I did my reviews on.
By the way, did AMD send you that, or was it?
No, AMD sent us that Threadripper.
Yeah. Okay. Back when the Threadripper launched, they sent us a few components. They didn't send us a full kit. I actually provided about half the PC that you guys can go read our Threadripper reviews. The one thing I wanted to do with my review was I'd see everyone's Threadripper reviews and they would run the standard scientific suite. And of course, Ian even wrote a application for some scientific benchmarking that did really well. I actually ran it in our benchmarks just because it is a good program. But the thing I wanted to do was use Threadripper for actual use cases. I went and installed Hyper-V and VMware ESXi on our Threadripper to see how well it would work. And not only that, but I ran transcoding inside of virtual machines simultaneously on Threadripper. And I got all of those benchmarks, all of that data on our website. You can go check out our reviews. Yeah. And I also did it from a streamer's point of view, because I see everyone running a single application going, look at all this performance that this one application gets running this one thing. And I'm like, no, that's not how people use this stuff. I have actually streamed accidentally while running a transcode while mining.
Very, very pro. So
Windows needs to solve the 64 thread per processor group issue.
Yeah, I was going to.
Yes, they do.
Oh wow.
Yes, they do.
I don't know what that's like because I've never used the processor with that many threads.
Yeah, I think he mentioned that in one
normal
of his write-ups or something.
Hey, Ian, have you checked that on Windows Data Center, Server Data Center 2019, or even the new 2022? I'm just throwing it out there. I don't think that's a limitation in those versions, but of course that's enterprise level, so it doesn't matter. But a lot of these Threadrippers are probably going to have some kind of pro grade like Windows Server installed on them when you're talking something that needs to be 64 cores or more kind of thing.
So just some things I wanted to bring up before I left was China might be blocking ARM sale to NVIDIA, mainly because ARM's China subsidiary is basically rebelling against them in a way, because their CEO basically said, I'm not giving up my power, and he was voted out in a board meeting thingy. And it's very funny because he's just like, nope, because I have a rubber stamp.
Okay,
and
Ian says
Xi Jinping's like,
yeah,
he's right.
Ian says that the 64 thread per proc group is still an issue in those versions, so yeah, that's why people run Linux,
Yeah.
I hate to say it because it's obviously not a catch-all. You can't just convert your workloads over to Linux, but there's reasons why Linux is a popular choice for a lot of high compute requirement scientific workloads.
Mike, would you explain yourself on that last one? NVIDIA purchase of ARM is a ruse?
Oh, they're probably just throwing it out there to see if the idea sticks. I think that's what he's kind of meaning, that it wasn't actually intended to succeed.
Yeah, I think SoftBank really wanted to get rid of ARM. They made a good ROI. They had the entire fiasco with WeWork and that. So I don't think it was a ruse, but I feel that ARM should be independent of these companies. Because see, look, I I don't support one company having so much control. It's just crazy. But on the flip side, you have AMD having Radeon cores come into the mobile space. So I guess Nvidia would kind of feel threatened because they're in the switches and that's about it. That's the only consoles they have. And if AMD shows themselves as being a valid competitor, they're gonna need an edge. Something, even like a year of heads up is enough for them to like recoup. Like if you're top dog, and Nvidia is at this point, you want to stay top dog, and the only way you do that is either you build the tech yourself or you buy it. Yeah. Also, with AMD's tech coming into mobile GPUs, I was like, can we have more like standalone VR? Like, are the ARM processors and GPUs that powerful? Because I know for a fact that Apple is making a move into the AR space.
Well, we have VR headsets that are running basically a mobile phone inside the headset for the screen and everything, and so
Right.
you do have that kind of thing already. And
right, but I'm talking about when can I connect a headset to my phone? Because hey, my phone's powerful.
you don't need a headset. You can just get Google Cardboard and just stick your phone inside of it.
Yeah, but it's not the same thing. I have a Galaxy VR and I loved it.
Yeah. It isn't the same thing, you're right. But until they get a few more things worked out with VR, and I think they're going to do some pretty good things with the next gen of VR.
Yeah.
But I got one of the last Odyssey Plus headsets that they were fire selling because they were dying. The line was being discontinued. And so I used that for Beat Saber and Alex and whatnot. And it works pretty good.
Yeah. I think in the future of gaming, we can... I'm sorry, I'm just really tired right about now. In the future of gaming, I think if you guys follow the anime Sword Art Online, I think that's a very big possibility. Not in the sense that the way they did it, which was way too extreme. Yeah, Nerve Gear.
Well, the thing is, with the idea of Nerve Gear, you think about it, you have a VR headset that you're basically controlling with your mind. If your mind tells your arm to move or swing a sword, you don't want your arm to move or swing a sword IRL. So you need some kind of way to prevent those signals from reaching your body. And so something that would interrupt on your nerves traveling from your brain and interpret those into something for the computer.
As good as Steins Gate. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you got Steins Gate, you got Sword Art, you got all that, even the Matrix, right?
I mean, Musk has kind of talked about this stuff already with the Neuralink stuff.
Yeah, I think that combined with... So I was thinking about this for quite a while from a practical perspective, and I was like, okay, cool. If I can get brain scans of me raising a hand and then simulating that using Neuralink, and using the same tech that NVIDIA is using for DLSS to create profiles. So, you would have a profile for a human, for each individual doing certain actions. So, for example, I'm raising my arm.
They've been doing EEG links with paralysis patients and stuff, and training to move mice on screens and things like that for years. I mean, you see that eye tracking tech that people use for glass, that actually was being developed by these kind of groups to help with disabled patients and stuff.
So
Ian said something funny in the chat. He said, people think mindlessly. Oh, a burger. And a burger appears in game. Yeah, runaway thoughts would be really, really weird.
Well,
No, that's
Your mind
actually
one.
that's where
that's
you would
actually
have a framework
happened in the
structure. You don't have just a free generated world, just like you can't just make a hamburger appear in
yeah.
Diablo 3. You just can't. It's not in there.
Well,
And so,
listen. Have you ever played a game with a hacker? They do whatever they want. You can't stop them.
No, but
yeah.
I'm
this
joking.
would
I'm joking.
I mean, you can
see
start
if
looking more into like Ghost in the Machine or Ghost in the Shell kind of setup.
yeah.
And that actually goes into more deep thought. Ghost in the Shell is more of
Yep.
a mental exercise more than an action, in my opinion.
I think I'm going to. I think I'm just going to become a woodworker and live in the woods, guys. This is getting too much.
Yeah.
You're not a
I'm
Weibo?
gonna
Come
do the
on.
same thing.
No, I meant I put this, the Neuralink stuff.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah, I'm just
For
gonna
me,
be a wood. I'm just gonna be a guy in the woods.
yeah, for me, for the first 50 levels, I'm just gonna like, solo it out, and then hopefully find myself a redhead. You get where I'm going with this?
Yeah. Ian makes a good
Find a
point.
black
He's
swordsman.
exaggerating, but you can think too far ahead of what you're doing, and the game doesn't understand what you're thinking ahead. Like, see, the problem is there are going to be massive, massive issues with this for a little while.
Well,
Yeah, for sure.
here's the other question though. When you're, say, doing an action, you're swinging a hammer or whatnot, even though you're
Mm-hmm.
thinking about your project and you're thinking about doing all that stuff, it doesn't cause your arm to not swing the hammer appropriately. You know what I mean? There is a difference in your brain pattern between thinking of an action and actually making an action.
Mm-hmm.
But
The
what if
motor cortex
coordination
is
between two
isolated
can be
for a
found?
reason.
Hey. Redheads are not crazy. You leave the redheads out of this. They're wonderful.
I am
Yes.
married to a redhead, so I already found my redhead.
Yeah. You leave them alone. They're wonderful.
And but do you wear black like all the time by any chance?
You
Who,
think
me?
this shirt was
Yeah.
a... I actually don't have any SAO memorabilia or paraphernalia or whatever you want to call it.
Hey.
Addiction.
No,
No.
they might be insane, but they're nice. So just leave it alone.
Yeah, man. Come on, man.
Maybe we'll have Ian to talk about this topic.
They're nice.
Because I'd really like to hear his opinion. They're
Yeah.
cute. They're cute.
Yeah.
Let's move on though. My point was, maybe we could have Ian on at some point and have this discussion about
Sure.
Neuralink and stuff. This would be a really interesting thing to maybe go in depth on at one point.
Yeah, maybe we could have Jim and a lot more people who understand these things. Like,
I'm just
free
a
thinker
Luddite.
video would be good too.
I'm just a Luddite. That's it. I'm just afraid of change.
You assume Kurt dresses himself.
My wife
No,
does
obviously
like
not.
anime. She is somewhat of an anime fan, not a fanatic. There's a
Yeah.
difference. But you can't see.
Wait.
Like I said, I am sporting One Punch Man here. So
Wait, Kirk, I have to ask. Do your kids watch anime with you?
no, I don't watch a whole lot of anime with the kids.
Right.
Okay, so I have not gotten any anime girls in my email, so this is different than last time.
He needs
Oh,
to go
you-
and research who they are, though. He sends them over in Discord saying,
I've-
"What person is this?" Of course, probably censored still, but you need to lean up, Alex. You're dropping too far down again.
No,
You're
I
killing
have-
me here.
Put the
Killing me
little
here.
stop on your chair. That we know you got a gaming chair and all, but make it stiff and vertical. Come on.
It is vertical. I have to lean into the camera, man. This is getting awkward.
I did mention that you were willing to do a overvolted episode, just you and Jim there, Ian. So he just didn't have the time, just like he didn't have the time to do a lot of the videos there at the end. He had already been burnt out on the whole tech thing. And
Believe me, there's a lot of us that, a lot of us, the staff that really tried to get stuff out of Jim towards the end, and he just wasn't into it. So
well, he's living in Sweden with his
we gotta respect his
girlfriend,
bitch's
and
fate.
I mean he's
been
really busy and really dealing with a lot of health issues and things like that. So
So like everybody in the comments, it says stuff like, "Where's Jim? Why isn't Jim here? You guys took over something." Believe
We
me,
wish
we
Jim
want
was
Jim
here.
to be doing this as much as possible. We really wish he was here. So
Yeah, I mean,
we're in the same camp as you guys,
yeah,
but
I miss the Scottish guy's voice. I watched Freethinker
oh,
again and again
Techtober
just
was
because of
insane.
it.
Techtober was insane for you guys. I didn't get sampled enough to actually get involved in all of the benchmarking, but I know guys who had to do both the CPUs and the GPUs and the other GPUs, and
Yeah,
Jesus Christ,
CES was crazy.
I am so happy though that I'm split up from doing all of the things like those individual YouTube channels, because those guys, they got to do like all of the work.
Right.
I'll do a Scottish voice.
You know what? Ian probably would be the one who would be most capable of doing a Scottish voice.
Right.
Yeah.
And listen, I heard him in, I think it was the ethics video where he talks about like how the whole sampling thing works and relationships with companies.
Yeah.
He did a good Jim impression at one point.
All right, guys.
How's it going?
Okay. Yeah. So all these things aside, one last thing before I head out is that OLED displays going mainstream. That's something that happened during CES.
Oh, look, mainstream.
Yeah, funny.
I want one. I want
Yeah,
one.
I think we're all gonna have them in a bit. I was kind of disappointed. I recently reviewed an MSI laptop. There were a lot of things I did not like about it, and one of the fact was that, hey, OLED went mainstream. Why don't you have it? You know.
So
micro LED and quantum dot.
So why aren't these?
I kind of forgot how great OLED is until I bought a Samsung phone. I think the Galaxy. It's not one of the S's. It's like the G71 or something. The A71, 5G one.
Right. A71, yeah.
Yeah, the A71 5G. I forgot how amazing the screen was. I was going to not use it to like watch YouTube videos and stuff on it because I was like, I always burn these phones out and watch too much videos on them and YouTube and once I looked at the screen, I'm like, no, this is such a gorgeous screen. I want to use this thing all the time.
When I have owned an S6 and S7 Edge, and the one thing I appreciated between the two was the OLED.
S7 was kind of a bad generation, though. Like the 6 was great, the 8 was great.
Yeah, so the problem I had with the 6 and the 7 was that they were very flimsy in terms of their design. I was able to sell my 6 to move on to the 7, but my 7 Edge broke, ironically, while I was waiting for Apple. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll just get an iPhone. And I have been happy since, but in another 6 months, my 8 Plus is probably going to start showing its age, and I'm going to have to upgrade. So, yeah, I mean, that's good 4 years I got out of my 4+ years I got out of my 8 Plus, versus 1.5, less than 1.5 for both my S series phones.
I'm still on an S8, and my
that's pretty good.
My old S6 is what my son uses for his YouTube. It uses the wireless charging because that was the first gen that had it. Because he's broken the micro USB port like 2-year-olds do, and so there's a lot of good things that Android has really been doing with their phones over the years, and Samsung in particular.
Yeah, I have to give credit to their One UI 3.1 and DeX. These have been phenomenal software improvements for Samsung.
Well, and you got Knox as well.
Knox is good, but it's more like a secondary thing now.
Yeah, it is.
Right? Yeah.
But just the isolation it provides.
Yeah.
So we've got another question. From somebody asked about if we would do a show with Moore's Law is Dead. I mean, so we've considered doing a lot of guests. We probably have a lot of people we're going to bring on. Moore's Law is Dead would be interesting. We've talked about it internally. But we kind of want to introduce you guys to our new staff before we bring on any guests to sort of get you guys used to everyone.
Oh yeah, I'm new staff. Hi.
And as you can see, Overvolted is a live stream, so you guys get the information a lot sooner. I was doing almost 18 hours of video work on our live stream, or our Overvolted productions before, and you guys would get a Sunday recording by Thursday because, you know, I have a 40-hour-a-week job. Well, a minimum of 40-hour-a-week job.
Someone brought something up about a Samsung data collection scandal. I have no idea. I don't follow the mobile tech stuff that much.
That would be my department.
That would be Noam on this part.
Yeah, he manages the off hours news, while us US people are.
Put it that way. I don't see anything about the data collection. Do you mind sending a link, please?
Well, we could talk about the what was it? The search browser, DuckDuckGo.
Oh no.
That was doing data collection, even though they sold their stuff based on the fact they don't.
Yeah, but didn't they just show you ads, but then they stripped away the metadata or something like that?
So it's not necessarily the software that Kirk is editing in. It's the amount of time he puts into those edits.
Every frame.
Well, it's not every frame, but I was doing a lot of overlay. I was having to research some things to find sources for what we were actually just off the cuff talking about, and things like that. And so I would put all that relevant information in after the fact because we would bring it up. And so I had to basically listen to the whole podcast at least 3 or 4 times. And it's not just as simple as just dropping the audio in there.
Well, we also had things like I would have during recording day, my neighbors would decide to
mow
cut the grass, mow the lawn, or it'd be a windy day and there'd be branches hitting up against my window.
I get you. I had a baby crying till like 5 minutes before we were supposed to start.
Donnie had his dog barking in the background one time. That was great. There's like a lot of
comes through. So there's actually some of the conversation that you guys didn't hear because I had to cut out sentences or paragraphs worth of discussion. And I had to find a way to mesh that together into a seamless audio. And you guys probably didn't even notice.
Yep. No, he was doing a lot of work behind the scenes. So that's why we're probably going to be continuing to do this in live format. And
I do like the live stream format a little bit better. I mean, there's a lot more opportunity for mistake, but it's a lot more informal. And you guys probably won't be holding our feet to the fire about the level of audio quality.
And I won't have to be really close to the mic like this all the time.
Yeah. And obviously, even Alex has been slouching in his chair, and we've only been able to see his mouth up. And, you know, those are all things that are forgivable in a podcast that's live, you know. And I hate to say that we're, you know, lowering the bar or something, but we want to get to you guys faster. We want to especially get this live chat where you guys can talk back at us and correct us on the spot. Like, I don't want to have a video that us saying something incorrect where I miss it in post, or I don't even know myself that it was incorrect. And you guys have some expertise that we don't. And so we definitely appreciate that feedback and that you guys are here. Go ahead, Alex.
No, I was going to say, and it's way more likely for us to actually come down and be consistent in doing this every week. Maybe we'll change the time. Maybe we'll change, you know, the day, but we'll be much more likely to get this out if Kirk doesn't have to spend a ton of time editing this. This has kind of been an issue for us, is getting everybody to, you know, coordinate, and Kirk finding the time to spend that much time to edit the podcast.
And I did get a lapel mic.
I mean, also there's a lot of there's also been a lot of how do I put this? I guess some burnout in how interested we are in a lot of these topics, because it just seems to be more and more bad news. The GPU crisis didn't ever sort itself out, you know.
Hey, look, it's
out of stock. That's.
And I'm like, all right, so we're gonna do the podcast this week, guys. We're gonna talk about how everything's out of stock and how if you want to buy a Ryzen 3600X, they're $350.
And
now they're not.
Just so you guys know, this will hold my feet to the fire as well. I have a script ready. I need to record it using my lav mic so it's consistent, but I've already done all the video work for a review that I'm doing. I'm building a white box NAS essentially for multimedia use. So,
are you using what's that software called? Flux? No, Lux. No.
I'm not using software.
Are you just streaming directly, or are you using Plex server? Are you using a Plex server by any chance?
Yes, it will be designed for Plex. I actually, at the very end of the video, will add Plex to the server and claim the server using a Plex account. And that's where the video is going to stop, because obviously people's setup on Plex and everything is, let's say controversial, but also unique to that person. So my music library, my family photos, family videos, all of that kind of stuff is all going to be on there, kind of thing. On my Plex server, I've already built one for myself. This is actually a commissioned work that, as much commissioned as $0 is for a buddy of mine. So you guys will get to see how much money he dropped on this thing and how good it's going to be. And I'll leave it as a surprise on what type of setup technology and whatnot it's going to be.
All right, so someone said that there is a version of Blender that now runs on ARM, Apple M1. Does that mean that other powerful ARM chips like Fujitsu's 48-core A64FX or Thunder 3? I think what he means to say is, hey, can powerful ARM chips be used for Blender? Yeah, they can.
I mean, anything that computes is going to be able to do Blender.
Plus they're already,
it's just, is it good at it is the question. Just like you can do
that use this.
I mean, there's horses for courses kind of thing, right? If you want to do transcoding with a fixed function, Intel has a great option with QuickSync. It is by far faster than a lot of the alternatives. But if you are looking for CPU multimedia encoding, you would choose something other than an i3 that has QuickSync, right?
For sure.
And so
anyway,
you can make anything fit a square.
I'm gonna bounce.
We are wrapping up, guys.
I don't have the energy to continue.
But all right. Well, thank you everyone for attending our inaugural return live stream, whatever you want to call it, relaunch. And I'm not sure if anyone noticed the little Easter egg I put on the screen there. We're working on logos, and this is one of our more favorite options. It has a lot of the components that we kind of felt would fit into the logo. And we might even make some merch with it, depending on how set we are on this iteration or not.
And hopefully before the next Overvolted comes out, I'll be having a video up talking about so there's a lot of games that I think people missed with the when they did the Ryzen CPU comparisons, and you're going to be see some of those.
Great.
That versus the 5600X versus the 3600X in a bunch of gaming titles, just to kind of show people something that is games that people play more. Some pretty interesting stuff.
And thanks for the £5 there, Ian.
Oh yeah,
it's much appreciated.
Tech Potato, thanks a lot, Ian.
We've been running. That's another nice thing about this is we got the super chats with the YouTube streaming stuff. We have Patreon as well. If you guys want to support us as the writers for AdoredTV, we do have our own Patreon that's separate from Freethinker and Jim's stuff. So if you guys want to help support us, $1 gets you into the Discord and whatnot. And if you guys are nice, we let you in anyway. Come on, we're not in it for the money. We'll just put it that way.
Although we would appreciate if you guys gave us a free, graphics card. If you got a 3090 just sitting in a box somewhere,
or if you guys have a cozy that you want
pizza.
to feature in the podcast. No, Western Digital is not paying me anything, by the way. We don't have them as a sponsor.
We would like them, though.
I just like their hard drives. And hey, Arian also, thank you. Or is that Arian?
5.49.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you.
Hope you guys do this more often. Gove gave it a chance. Yeah, we appreciate you watching.
The Hardware Unboxed did do a video. If it's the one I'm thinking of, there's a couple of titles. Well, most of the titles that I'm using there, they didn't test.
Yeah, and Landstrike's.
But I don't want to give up the game too much.
Landstrike's calling out that we have BTC and ETH destinations as well.
Oh, that's true.
You're welcome to pay us under the table if you want.
We accept graphic cards.
Yeah. So
it's a perfectly good currency.
Oh,
here's your tip: buy Monero before it's too late.
Titan 48 gig. The Monero is a really good security coin. I'll just say that. And Landstrike actually has a YouTube channel as well. You might want to go check that out. They're really great with the crypto world. Very knowledgeable.
Yeah. Also, if any of you use Twitter, I use Twitter quite often, so you'll see me ranting about random stuff. So if you like my writing, throw me a follow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm Alex Blue Screens on Twitter. I try not to rant too much because it'll get me in trouble.
Yeah, I actually don't do a whole lot of ranting and stuff on Twitter. I sometimes barely log into it, to be honest, but I try to do stuff. And maybe I'll even just make an official Twitter account for myself with the blue check and everything.
Oh, wow.
If
Ian's going to send us a GT 760.
Oh, what?
Or 7600. Yes. I'm sorry, a 7600 GT. There we
Hold
go,
on.
boys.
Hold on.
Oh, Kirk, you're going to go find one of your old cards, aren't you?
Of course. I'm not sure you guys can hear me.
Ian, I would definitely take that. It's a beautiful card.
Let's see. Oh, look at that. It almost has dust on it. This is the 6770 I was telling you about. My 5770 is still in a box.
Hey, I bet it goes grrr.
Look, it's RTX or RX 470. Yeah. I got stuff.
Back in the day.
I got stuff.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
All self-funded. Nobody gave me stuff. But
yeah, people gave me stuff, Kirk. People gave me stuff.
That whole rant, you remember that? Oh yeah, Gamers Nexus. Yeah, but
you guys can continue on without me. I am dying. Sleep.
Yeah, I think I'm
good night, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining us, and we'll be back hopefully next weekend. Does this Saturday at, well, depending on where you're at in the U.S., noon to 3 o'clock, whatever, work for everyone. Throw a comment on the video after the fact and let us know. We'll probably do another community poll like we did with the whole live stream question. We actually got some great feedback on that, so thank you for participating. And we'll see you in the next one, guys.
I very much look forward to it. Yeah.
All right, guys.
All right, guys. And I do hope we get Jim on this one of these days. I think if we get going well enough, he'll join. So we'll see you later, guys. Though. Yeah, no promises. We'll try to keep you entertained. And with that,